Nisha just to assist wherever something is necessary. And please give me a shout if there's something happening. Ricky, back to you, and thank you to the team.
Thank you so much, Shane, and welcome everybody. It's nice to see you virtually all again. I hope one day we'll be able to do a face-to-face session again, just so we can all see each other in person. And it's so exciting, this AI. I love it. I absolutely love it. I use it on a daily basis, ethically, I might say. And without further ado, I just want to quickly do some ground rules with you guys. If you could please make sure that you are muted. If you need to ask a question or say something, please just raise your hand. And my colleague Ntlantla is going to be on with Karen. I will introduce Karen now to you, because I have to hop off, unfortunately, also myself, to another meeting with the foundation phase officials in Boksburg, where they're having their meeting. I have to do a presentation there. So I'm starting you guys off, and I'm leaving you in very, very good hands. So Karen, if you would like to just move your screen to your bio page, I can just introduce you quickly to them. Karen and I have been friends for, I don't know, Karen, how long? It's been the better part of 15 years. It's been quite a long time, if not longer than that. May I please ask that you mute yourself? Colleagues, please remain muted. Thank you. So Karen is a very dear friend of mine. We started working together in the 90s already. That's longer than 10 years, Karen. In the 90s, where we were both part of the Technology Association of South Africa, doing all sorts of workshops to train teachers in the new subject of technology. In those days, we upskilled ourselves and we became really good. So we tried to give our expertise over to educators all throughout Gauteng, actually throughout the country. At that stage, we were both just normal teachers. And then Karen went on to start her own company. She's an edu-change maker. She's also an edu-disruptor. So she really disrupts people's way of thinking about technology, she's an expert in practically anything that remotely beeps. I can honestly say Karen does it all. She also worked for Google at some point. She still does freelance work for them as well. So she really, really is very good. She recently got her doctorate. Karen, thank you so much for your time, for your expertise as usual. And I'm going to hand over to you. You guys are going to be in very, very good hands today. She's going to take you through a whole lot of things when it comes to artificial intelligence. And I must say, Karen is also a very, very big expert on artificial intelligence. She also uses it and really researches it on a daily basis. So Karen, over to you.
So hi, everybody. Thanks, Vicky, for the kind words. I'm really excited about doing this workshop for you today. I've done a few artificial intelligence workshops for lecturers and for different schools and at different conferences, and I just love it. So today we're going to explore what is AI, look at the benefits and the risks. We're going to look at tools, and we're going to play. I really need for you to play and engage in the session with me. So please don't be quiet. Please share ideas. We're going to look at how we could do assessment, look at the controversy around it in terms of AI checkers, look at how do we reference this thing called AI. And then for me, it's saying, how do we develop critical and creative thinkers? Because I think that's what we really need in this world of change. And then question the kind of homework we send home now, and how do we do it from that point of view, and plagiarism and the concerns around that. And then even looking at a school policy. Your schools need policies in terms of introducing or using artificial intelligence. So let's begin and play. So what is artificial intelligence? So first of all, it's a software. It's not a hardware, it's software that we actually work with. It allows computers and machines to simulate human intelligence and problem-solving tasks. So these computers are being taught to think like people. They're being taught to solve problems like we do. So the AI's ability is to rationalize and take action to achieve a specific goal. Then within that, you've got a range of subsets. One of them is machine learning. And what machine learning is, it's where computer programs can automatically learn from and adapt to new data without human assistance. AI is also a field of knowledge engineering, and that creates rules to apply to data to imitate the thought process of a human expert. And then algorithms are part of the structure of artificial intelligence. For example, simple algorithms are used in simple applications, while more complex algorithms are used to help make strong AI frames. So if we think of AI as a range of different things, and we've said that machine learning is a subset of AI, what does that mean? It means that computer programs can automatically learn from and adapt new data without human assistance. And then we've got things called natural language processing. And what natural language processing is, it's another branch of artificial intelligence. And what it does is it enables the computers to comprehend human language. Now, as language teachers, that then becomes really important. So there are these natural language processing models which actually are teaching computers how to comprehend human language. It generates human language. So text, voice, a range of different things. It can manipulate human language. So a natural language processing has the ability to interrogate data with natural language text, with natural language voice. And so if you think about it as a language teacher, that then has a really profound impact, and in the long term could be really beneficial in terms of how we use this within our classrooms. So artificial intelligence is computer systems that are capable of performing tasks traditionally associated with human intelligence. So for example, making predictions, identifying objects, interpreting speech, generating natural language. So AI systems learn by processing huge amounts, these massive amounts of data, and looking for patterns to model and to help them make decisions. So if the data they're getting is valid and fair, then you're removing bias and things like that. And so it's the models that we build things on that really impact the ethics and the bias within the artificial intelligence. So if we then look at that, there are three main types of artificial intelligence. So one is sometimes called weak AI, or otherwise narrow AI. And this focuses on one task and can't perform beyond its limits. For example, a personal assistant, for example, Apple's Siri or Amazon's Alexa. So it can do the common daily task lives, but that's its scope. The next one is called strong AI. Now, strong AI can understand and learn any intellectual task that a human being can do. For example, researchers are striving for it to become or to really get to strong AI. We're sort of not there yet. And then there's a general AI, which includes strong artificial intelligence systems, which carry on tasks considered to be human-like and are more complex and complicated. For example, your self-driving cars or your autonomous vehicles or your hospital operating systems. So the way that artificial intelligence is used impacts every single one of us in different shapes or forms. So in the chat, quickly tell me what apps you use that you think have artificial intelligence. So for example, who uses something like Google Maps? Are you going to pop it in the chat? Are you going to Bard? Great. ChatGPT. I'm talking Waze. Right. Waze uses Google Maps uses it. Anything else that you use? Gemini. So those are all models that you know. I'm talking about apps that you're using on your phone that use AI. WhatsApp, yeah? Who uses
How are you?
Anybody use Netflix? Facebook has AI that's following us. So if you think about lots of the things you use when you start searching and options come up, then suddenly there are a whole lot of things that are following you and are saying to you, hey, you were searching to learn about this for a lesson, and then suddenly all sorts of ads pop up. That's the artificial intelligence working in the background that's trying to make your life easier. So artificial intelligence is making your life easier. If you booked a plane ticket and you then get a pop-up to say, hey, your flight's going in a few minutes, or remember to check in, or remember to download the magazine, that's all artificial intelligence that's been programmed, that's related specifically to your booking, and is actually telling you how it's going to work. So there are lots of applications. If you use something like Airbnb and you book online, the same kind of thing. It's not somebody sitting there. The artificial intelligence has been programmed so that it reminds you to do a payment, or it reminds you to send a report or a comment to somebody, or it reminds you that your event's coming along. So those are all sorts of different ways in which artificial intelligence is interacting. How many of you are using artificial intelligence inside of Microsoft at the moment? Has the artificial intelligence been switched on inside of your Microsoft tools that you are using? Okay, we're seeing a no. Okay, I'm going to carry on. Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate the engagement. And then we've got super AI, which surpasses our human intelligence and can perform any task better than a human. So this is still a concept, but if we carry on teaching the AI, that's what we're going to end up with. So there are a few things for me around this. Anytime we put information into an AI, we should be polite. We should be thinking about how we're interacting with the AI, because we never know that this AI that we are using, where it will end up. Would it be in an autonomous robot one day, or will it be engaging with us just online? So if we're kind, it will be kind. And I want you to think about that as we're going through the things today. So there are a range of different AI models which benefit us from a school point of view. For example, interactive AI. So these are chatbots or smart personal assistants. Another one is text AI. So text recognition and speech to text recognition. Then we've got visual AI. So computer vision or augmented reality. We've got functional AI. So the Internet of Things or the use of robots. So, for example, an Internet of Things. How many of you have a smartwatch, and what do you use it for? Quickly pop that into the chat, please. If you don't have one, say no. If you do have one, say yes. And if you say yes, tell us how you use it. Ah, nice. Tracking your heart rate. Counting steps, yes. How many of you don't have a smartwatch, but you do that on your phone? So you use your phone to track your steps, or you use your phone to look at your heart rate. Reminders, yes, nice. So if you think about it, you're using AI in a range of ways. Somebody's popped up their hand. Would you like to talk? I see you've taken it down. If you'd like to talk, I'm happy for you to do that.
No, ma'am. I just wanted to say I also use the phone and not the watch. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, ma'am. So if you think about it, we're using things that are using AI, but we haven't actually thought that it's AI. And some of the things we've been using for quite a while already. So AI isn't new. Then the last one that I'm going to show you here is analytic AI. So sentiment analysis. So if we start using SAMs and we start really analyzing the data, you can actually then see which schools need help, which districts need more assistance. Should we be putting different teachers into different spaces? And so the analytical AI for me is something which I think we could really, really benefit from as a country and as different schools if we started using that properly. Another way that analytical AI is looking at supplier risk assessment. So when people are procuring products and things, they can do a risk analysis. Then let's have a look at AI just in the African context. So there are different programs that are happening across the continent that are being sponsored, and these are just some of them. So for example, AI being developed to look at gender equality and inclusion innovation, or climate action innovation. And you can see the countries which are driving this. So you can see in this instance, we've got Senegal. In the first one, we've got Senegal and Nigeria, and I think it's Kenya. And then, so you can see the gray areas that are involved in these African projects. And then building responsible AI for global health. And then artificial intelligence for agriculture and food systems, innovation and research around that. And then if we look at research networks for education, so it's called the Edu AI Hub, and South Africa is part of that as well. And then these are the universities within South Africa who belong to the Center for Artificial Intelligence Research, the CSIR, and obviously the department is involved with that. And then all the different universities and the different aspects that they're looking at. So you'll see some are focusing on more than one aspect. So if you look at UP, there are 3 different ones. If you look at UCT, there are 2 over here. And the other universities might be doing things as well, but these were the ones that were related to this website. So it's not foreign, and it's also not that new. So in Africa, even though they're saying that our artificial intelligence research and stuff is not as advanced in other countries, it is happening. And it's saying, how are we actually buying into this and engaging with this in our continent and our country? Then already in 2022, the government launched the Artificial Intelligence Institute of South Africa with their AI hubs. And the AI hubs were at the University of Johannesburg and the Tshwane University of Technology. And so we actually have an official Artificial Intelligence Institute within our country, which is also quite different from some of the other countries on the continent. And then if we look at policy, I'm sure you've heard about the different things. So the EU's got a policy, the US is just still not sure what's happening with it. Within this document, and I can share it with you later, from a South African point of view, we're not doing badly compared to other African countries. So if you look at the key areas for AI that need to be active, when this document was created in 2022, it said already we had a digital and ICT and a 4IR strategy. We had an e-learning strategy, we had an e-government strategy. We've got the science, technology, and innovation strategy. We've got an e-health kind of policy. So those had already been drafted. And all we needed in this whole long list was we needed the national AI strategy to be completed. And I believe that that is still in progress. If it's changed, or if any of you know if it's changed, I would be really interested to know. But we're actually on a really good tangent in terms of using tech from a policy point of view. And so as the tech is growing, it's really great that we're getting it on the ground as well. So what are some of the benefits, the general benefits for artificial intelligence? So automating repetitive tasks, for example, data entry and factory work. So globally, that's one of the things that we're seeing could be an impact. Improving customer experience, for example, user personalization, chatbots, automated self-service technologies. Solving complex problems, for example, predicting financial outlooks or optimizing energy solutions. Or advancing healthcare and medicine, for example, accelerating medical diagnosis, drug discovery, development, and medical robot implementation to assist in healthcare. And then reducing human error, for example, identify relationships in data making or AI effective for catching mistakes and anomalies among the mounds of digital information. If you read this, lots of people see this as negative and think of it how it might be removing jobs. What we need to start saying to people is, how are we using this to actually empower more people and upskill more people so that we reduce a number of people who need jobs? So think about it from a positive spin and what we would need to do to change that. And as language educators, that's something that you could really consider. Then what are some of the disadvantages? Well, loss of employment, which is the one I've just spoken about. Bias and discrimination. I'll talk about that in more detail just now. But because most of the big databases are from Europe and from America, and then you've got big ones in China, but where the AI that we generally use, it's from Europe and the US, the AI is often biased. So for example, more white kind of views come through, more male views come through. And because in Africa we've got a smaller data set, we actually need to almost teach the AI about our continent. And I'll explain that just now a bit further. Privacy concerns. So often you'll hear people saying, oh, but if we use AI, there are privacy concerns. So it's saying, what are you using, protecting your data? What does it mean to protect your data? All of those kinds of things need to be considered. Then environmental costs. So AI uses huge machine processing. These machines use an enormous amount of energy. So again, then it's looking at the environmental impact and costs in terms of using this kind of technology. And then ethical concerns, like what if we keep using AI to produce things that could harm people? Or what about looking at it so that it increases the bias against different groups of people? Or so we need to be aware of the ethics and how we're using the data. And then things like hallucination. A hallucination is where the AI is taught to please humans. The AI is taught to make you feel excited or happy. So if you ask it for something, it will try and do it. So for example, if you ask for a URL about a topic you're doing, it knows how to put a URL together. So it'll put the URL together, but maybe the website doesn't exist, or it was just trying to please you. So as humans and as people using AI, we need to be really critical and not just take something we've made and copy and paste it and send it. We need to read everything really critically. We need to reflect on what's there. We need to check the URLs. We need to take ownership of the work and not just accept that a tool has made it and it's good to go. So where did all of this begin? Well, research began in the 1950s. In 1950 itself, Alan Turing, who was an English mathematician, published a paper which was called Computing Machinery and Intelligence. And that paper sparked the whole discussion around this thing that machines could learn, machines could be intelligent. So he worked on these huge, big computers. And that's where that concept came from. So computing machinery and intelligence. But the actual term artificial intelligence was only used in 1956 by John McCarthy. John McCarthy put a group of people together at an academic conference where they had a discussion. They called it the Dartmouth Workshop. And there was a group of academics who came together and discussed, so what is this computing machinery? What does it mean that these machines we are working on are becoming intelligent? And can this thing of artificial intelligence really begin to happen? So with the programming and the things that they were doing, that's where the words artificial intelligence came about. In the 1960s, artificial intelligence was already used by the United States Department of Defense, and they were training computers to mimic human reasoning. In the 1960s and 70s, you had Seymour Papert. If you've never heard of Seymour Papert, please go and Google him afterwards. So he was a South African-born person who went and worked at MIT as one of the places for most of his life. He was not in the country. But he was saying in the 1960s and 70s that we need to introduce computers into the classroom. And he developed the coding language called Logo. Logo was this little turtle, or it is this little turtle that you can program, and you can make these amazing 2D and 3D shapes by programming it using a simple text language. But what he was saying is we need to develop students thinking in different ways. We need to be introducing computational thinking. And so the idea of putting computers into the classroom is also not a new idea. And so if we tie these two together, if we're using AI, we need devices. These two go hand in hand. And what he then said is we need to develop a thing called procedural thinking. We need to actually get our children thinking about processes. We need to get our children to be thinking differently instead of the teacher giving them the answer, that they are creating, that they are actually thinking. And he then incorporated his theory into constructivism. He developed his own system, which was called constructionism, which was taking aspects of constructivism and adding in this procedural thinking, where students construct their own products, their own thinking. And isn't that really what we want our children to do from an artificial intelligence point of view? We want our children to be able to construct information, not being fed everything as a traditional lesson, but getting children to think differently. So what I'd like you to do today is I really want you to think about teaching differently, getting your language teachers to be thinking about how are we teaching language differently? How do we improve our PEARLS results by using AI? How do we get our children engaged because we're using tech? So I really want you to explore it from that point of view, from your context, where you're working, and how you can inspire teachers to actually get the children to be thinking differently. Because in a world of change, we need children who are using higher order thinking. We need children who are confident to solve problems. And as teachers, we can do that. We can either kill that confidence and make them little puppets that they don't actually think on their own, or we can drive the change and get them to really be thinking differently about what they're doing. So now let's look at it from a language point of view. And I'm going to start with the negative. What are the concerns about AI among language teachers? So the first one is potential loss of human touch. So reduced human interaction due to over-reliance on AI. Think about that. We're already seeing children who are using tech too much. So how are we going to add this kind of technology into our lessons, but still have the teacher engaged? And that's why I think the teacher becomes so very important in terms of the modern classroom. Limited social and emotional support. If children are just on the computer all the time, who's going to support them? How are they going to be supported? Lack of nuance and context. So AI may struggle to understand sort of the sub aspects of language, for example, sarcasm or humor or cultural references or full language competence. So how are we actually engaging from that point of view? What about concerns about ethical considerations? So for example, data privacy and security. So are we actually setting up the parameters so that we know that the data is being protected? Are we using databases which we know are reliable, which we know are secure? So for me, that's really important. For example, if we're looking at learner data, how is it being collected by the AI tools? Does it result in concerns around privacy or proper usage or potential misuse? What about bias in terms of algorithms? So for example, looking at perpetuating bias, looking at the present data that's trained on them, or leading to discriminatory outputs or unfair assessments. So we need to really be discerning in terms of using technology. Or what about increasing the digital divide? So unequal access to AI tools can further exaggerate the existing disparities in educational opportunities. So for me here again, it's really sad where schools say they don't have devices, where they can't actually get devices. So it's almost like saying to government, we've got to a stage where we need to have working labs and spaces where students can actually have access, because if we want students to cope in this changing world, which is changing so fast, we need to not be saying that within a school you don't have access. And so I know that's a challenge in terms of a province, but I really think it's things that need to be discussed from a national point of view and saying, how do we address this divide? How do we actually start saying, how do we close this gap? Because we really want our, we don't just want the innovative schools to have really good devices. We want every school to have devices. We want every school to have an opportunity. We want every child to be able to succeed. So we can close the loss of job gap, that we can close children's discrepancies in terms of having and not having. And maybe the AI can help us to do all of that if they have access in terms of devices and internet and things like that. Other concerns are practical challenges. For example, the cost of implementation. So AI costs money. AI is expensive. So it would be adding to budgets if you start adding things like AI into operating systems or productivity suites. Advanced AI and infrastructure is expensive for schools to adopt and to maintain. Teacher training and adaptation might be another one. Unreliable technology. So making sure that we buy technology from reliable sources, that we know that it's vetted, all of those kinds of things. For example, AI can produce errors and unexpected results. So we need to make sure that whatever databases we're using are appropriate to what we're trying to expect and what we are actually wanting to achieve. We require teachers to troubleshoot and adjust lessons. So not just using things as they are, but really thinking about their lessons as they would when they were doing a paper-based lesson. What about pedagogical concerns? So overdependence or stifling of creativity. For example, learners relying too heavily on AI for grammar correction or text generation, or hindering the development of independent thinking and creative language use. So you need to think about how are you using these tools so that it's not doing this, but that it's actually having the opposite effect. Focus on form over meaning. For example, AI's emphasis on technical accuracy may overshadow the importance of communication or self-expression or deeper purposes of language. So maybe it's teaching students that they don't accept every grammar correction and don't accept every change that the AI is suggesting, but that they take ownership of their work and that they're still using it. And the same applies to you. Don't accept every change that the grammar checker is saying. If you want to say something and the sentence is correct, but it's not understanding it, tell it to go away. Reject it. We should not just be accepting what is there. It's a machine. It only knows what it knows. So if we start changing the things and showing how we want to use it, we're not allowing this kind of thing to happen. What about potential misuse, where AI is used for cheating and plagiarism if learners are not taught how to utilize AI ethically and responsibly? And so the concerns are huge, and we need to be aware of them. And we need to really think about, not just say, no, we can't use this, because then we're actually saying, well, we're going to remove something which is not going to go away. And we're actually it's going to be a disservice to our students. We need to think about, how do we overcome these? How do we teach people to take ownership of them? What are the kinds of things that we can really do so that it becomes beneficial? So if we then look at ethics and AI, this document, I would really love for you to go through after it. It's UNESCO's Ethics and Artificial Intelligence, and they've got a range of examples. They've got 4 core values which they lay out in terms of it. And it works around being good for humanity, for individuals, for society, and for the environment. So the first one is human rights and human dignity. So using AI so that it respects, it protects, and it promotes human rights and the fundamental freedoms and human dignity. That's the first thing in terms of AI development and what they're saying companies need to do. And so if you're using an AI tool, you need to be able to find out about how are they achieving this. The second one is living in peaceful, just, and interconnected societies. This is a huge one if you think about it. And they are saying, how are we teaching AI and building ethics into that in terms of it creating a peaceful space? But it's saying not using AI for war, not using AI for weapons, not using, and having those discussions and being on the ground so that we're looking at AI being developed for living in a peaceful space. Ensuring diversity and inclusiveness. This is really, really important. So it's saying, how will we make sure that the AI databases we are using is has a variety of data so that we are ensuring diversity? And how is it including all sorts of people, including people with disabilities? And then looking at the environment and the ecosystem flourishing within the space so that we're looking at good humanity, at individual society and the environment from a positive point of view in terms of AI being developed. If there are discussions around these things, get involved. Don't sit back or say, no, it's not important to me. It's important to every single one of us as individuals to get involved. So as teachers, what should we note? First of all, AI is a tool to support us as teachers. Don't see it as a negative thing. AI is not going to replace us. AI is not going to be able to do the social and emotional thing. AI is not going to be able to go and sit next to a child and say, how can I help you? What's wrong? Let's see how we can do this. So the role of the teacher in terms of society should actually become even more important. And so the whole thing about speaking teachers up, saying to teachers to be proud of who you are, empowering them with tools like this that they can go into the community and show other people how to use them could be a really great way to say to society, look, it's the teachers who are driving this change. Look, it's the teachers that are actually making the difference. So the teachers are the human element of language teaching. We provide meaningful context. We build relationships. We foster creative expression. So how are we doing that within the way we engage with our learners? How are we encouraging our teachers to do this in the actual classrooms? So what are the benefits of AI for language teachers? Time saving and efficiency, automated grading, lesson plan assistance, differentiated instruction, enhanced feedback and assessment, so detailed error analysis, formative assessment insights, individual practice, expanding learning opportunities, immersive language environments, access to native level input, extended practice beyond class time. And so I want to go back to constructionism. It's saying, how are we actually inspiring our educational environment? So Packard's theory can be summarized as a vision in terms of new educational environments in which learners build meaningful knowledge artifacts by taking advantage of technologies all around them all the time. How are we doing that in our classrooms? How can we use AI to really help us from that point of view? So the first little tool I want you to explore today is called Read Along. Read Along is an app and it's a website. But for me, the most exciting thing about Read Along is one, or there are two things actually. One is it was developed by Google and they started in India and then they brought it to Africa and they employed African authors. So there are a wide range of books that are from an African context, which for me is really exciting. So our children can be reading books that are related to their situation. But the other exciting thing for me about read along is that the child reads and the AI listens. This is very different to the other reading apps, where the child can either choose to read silently or read the app as they go along, and they turn the page when it suits them, or that it reads to them. Here the child has to speak. The artificial intelligence listens while the child is reading and either helps them or congratulates them. So for me, Read Along is a really, really great app. There are a range of stories. It works from initial reading all the way through to about the middle of primary school. But if you've got a child who's really bad at reading, I think it's the kind of thing that you can really benefit from. So I would love for you now to go into your computers, and I would like for you to please open a Chrome tab or open Google Chrome. Preferably log in to a Google account if you can on your computer. I hope you can, because then it actually remembers your stuff. And what you're going to do is you're going to open the Read Along website and you're going to create an account. And I want to give you about, let's say 5 minutes to play. And then I want you to feedback and tell me if this is something that could be useful to you and how it could be useful to you in the grade that you teach. So this is an AI where you don't have to do anything. It's literally all there. The link's in the chat.
Sorry, ma'am, can you please repeat the instructions on how do we get to that app?
Okay, can you see if you open the meeting notes, if you open the chat, the meeting chat? And
Okay,
you'll
thank
see
you.
there's a link that I've said, let's play. And if you click on the link, if you haven't found it, let me know. You can also just type the words read along. And if you type in Google read along, it'll come up. So you'll see here, I'm logged in. I've chosen to be a very young child. So you'll see I'm only on level 1. And if we go to start reading, it will start expecting me to listen. You can see it goes through alphabets and phonics for the little children. They've also added British Council books. There are TV stories and things. So you need to decide what age. So when you go in, you need to go into the
Tap the language you want your children to learn to read.
So you'll see that we've got, you make sure that you're on the English only, because the others are, there are no other African language in here. So we make sure you're on English only, and then play along within that
I listen
space.
to your children as they read out loud and help them when they get stuck. Children can choose from hundreds of leveled stories. Recommendations change as they read better. Children can earn stars and unlock badges as they read.
Enjoy playing.
Library. Pick a story from these to read today. Library.
If you've got questions, pop them in the chat. I'm looking at that screen now. Lindsay, you asked me how do I change a level. Let me go into the app and see. When you set it up, do you not say what age your child is? Let's ask Google. Here in the help, so it says stories are organized by themes and difficulty levels. I see that there's also a teacher page that they've introduced. Sorry, I'm not winning with finding the answer to your question.
Karen.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, it's Lindsay. So I've scrolled down on mine and the highest level is level 4. So I'm not sure if that is the highest that it can go. Do you know?
I think that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
let me check one of those because I was doing a level 2 story. So let me see what's the level 4's like.
I think that they would go to like the beginning of intermediate phase.
Yeah.
And I suppose looking at building confidence, but I suppose also from a senior phase point of view, you could get your older children who maybe are still uncomfortable or even are comfortable with the language to look at it and evaluate it and say, what is their reading like? And looking at it just differently, even though it's an easy book, building confidence. I think if we think of I suppose children in spaces where they don't speak English enough, but the language of learning is English, it could be used as a fun way to get children to say, hey, look, this is for little kids, but can I do this?
Yeah,
and
true.
build confidence without them even realizing it. Or even saying to them, like a grade 7 must go and read to a grade 1 or 2 children and use the app to actually show children how to read. So they're practicing reading and building their confidence while being a peer sort of tutor to the younger kids.
True. I'm looking at the level 4. oh gosh, she's asking me if I need her help. The level 4 is quite interesting because it's not that, oh, hold on, let me just see. Okay, I've put my mic off. So what I was thinking is it's also good because the level 2 was very simple sentences. So what I'm seeing from level 4, it's also a bit more complex in terms of the sentence structure. So that could also be something that teachers use to show the different style and the different types of sentences as well. So even though it's not designed for like a grade 7 learner, they can very clearly see if you write in this particular manner, what does it say about your writing and your ability to use language. So it is really good, and it's got images as well. So that's always a great thing.
The other thing you could also look at is the type of topics that they have for the
Yeah.
grade 1 level compared to a grade 4 level. And the children
True.
could analyze why are the topics different, or even the titles. And they could then get ideas from that for when they're doing their own creative writing. Yeah.
True. Thanks.
No, thank you. Any other comments? Any other views?
Hi, Dr. Karen.
Hi, just call me Karen. I'm good. Thanks, ma'am.
Yes, this is Nisha.
Hi, Nisha.
Yeah, I'd also like to comment, it's about reading along, especially for us senior phase where we start grade 7, 8, and 9.
Yes.
I think this will be quite helpful for our teachers to deal with struggling readers.
Yes.
So the level readers is ideal, where they can start them off from the simple and move more to, as Lindsay said, to level 4, which will seem more appropriate to get them on par with the rest of them. So I think this could be very useful for intervention in our teaching of English in grade 7. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. Tracy, yes, the children can choose the books they want to read. So you could, as a teacher, decide. I haven't actually explored the group work much in terms of that, but the children can choose the book they want to read. So yes, for example, if they want, you could say we need to do an animal, or we need to do healthy eating, or you could say to children, you've got to do this one first and then you can do another one. You'll also see that it recommends time. So when the children log in and start using it, it'll say to them, you need to do about 10 minutes reading a day. It increases a little bit up the levels, but not much. So it's not saying to them they've got to read all day, but if they haven't done the 10 minutes, then it says to them, hey, you've still got so many minutes left to read. Cool. I hope this has given you some ideas. I'm going to move on. So for me, Read Along was one of the first real AI apps that I saw for education, and I just loved it. I trained as a foundation phase teacher many years ago. I've taught from grade R to grade 11. And for me, I can see the benefits, like some of the ones you've already described, how a tool like this, which might be seen as something for little children, we can get older children excited about it, get older children evaluating it, get them to help their younger brothers and sisters or cousins using this kind of thing. And they could be the teachers who could be showing them how to use it, and at the same time building their own confidence. So for me, this is a wonderful example of where artificial intelligence can really benefit every single child in the country. For me, it's the kind of thing that I think every parent should be told about it, and should have the apps on their phones, so that if there aren't books in the school, every single child can still be reading some books within the space. The next unusual one, which is also nothing to do with language in a way, is this tool called AutoDraw. So AutoDraw is made by Google's AI experiments. And what you do is you begin to sketch. So you'll see at the beginning, there's this little person doing a scribble. And then at the top, there are those little images at the top of the screen in the middle. And then you click on one of them and it turns your scribble into it. So what it's saying is, okay, you've made a scribble. Now that you've made the scribble, what are you trying to actually draw? and then you can create your own drawings, you can color them in, and you can do all sorts of things with it. So what I want to say is, I want you to think differently about tools that you could use for a language lesson, that this kind of tool could really be effective within the space. So what do I mean by that? Well, you could use it for building vocabulary. For example, what about a visual dictionary where learners draw a simple image of a vocabulary of a vocab word using AutoDraw? And then what you're doing is you're reinforcing the connection between the word and the meaning. And it doesn't have to be a simple word. So if you're introducing new vocab from a senior phase point of view, they could be doing this fun activity and really be reinforcing their development of vocabulary. What about a charades type game with AutoDraw, where one learner uses AutoDraw to visualize a word or a phrase, and others have to try and guess what that is? And here what we're looking at is we're seeing how we're using technology in a fun way and playing a traditional language game. So getting children to think differently, but using tech. Then what about storytelling and creative writing? So what about scene setting, where we get learners to use AutoDraw, to use simple icons and shapes and create a backdrop for a story? This then prompts them to think visually and use descriptive language in terms of what they're going to write about. Or what about illustrative stories, where they could use it to write a short poem or a story and then use AutoDraw to create a corresponding illustration of what they've already written, and then re-enhancing or enhancing their creative thinking. Or what about collaborative comics? What if learners work in a team and create a comic strip and use AutoDraw to make the pictures, and each person makes a different panel within that story? Think of the things where you're looking at it, where you can be using dialogue in a whole lot of different ways. You could be looking at different collaboration type things and getting children to talk about and work together collaboratively. So think about AutoDraw from a vocab or visual dictionary point of view, from building, from a charades point of view, a storytelling point of view, and I would really like you to play now. So you can either go in and Google on a new tab, Google AutoDraw. I'm going to pop the link into the chat for you quickly now as well. Just give me a second. Yeah, it is a pity that the only language is English. I do agree with you. Oh, one of your schools already uses it. Oh, that's fantastic, Sharika. That's so exciting to hear. Oh, and the visuals are exciting. So I'd like you now to click on the link in the chat for AutoDraw. Perhaps keep the chat box open throughout this session, because then you can see all the links I'm popping in, and you can also see the comments that people are putting in. And I would love for you to engage and share and add notes as you're going along. So please go in and just try playing with AutoDraw.
The link that I see is about Let's Play. I can't see anything written AutoDraw there.
Under
in the
Let's
chat box.
Play, under Let's Play, it's the HTTP. I'll paste it again for you. If you scroll down, so if you move the cursor down, perhaps you're not completely down. Just move the chat cursor down. I think you should be able to see it. Tell me if you still can't.
Maybe I should click on Let's Play. Maybe I can find whatever there about AutoDraw.
Otherwise, just open a Google new tab and type in Google AutoDraw, and it should come up.
Yeah. No, that brought me to AutoDraw, the Let's Play link.
Okay,
yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, pleasure. So here you can see I was playing a while ago and I ended up drawing a car. So I'm just going to tell it to start over. So the AutoDraw tool is the black one at the top over here. So so if you're on something else, you'll see as you click on different ones, it changes. So you need to be on the pencil with the stars, and it needs to say auto draw. So when you click on that, and then you use your mouse to start drawing, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just see what it ends up being. You'll see that it then starts suggesting. So you can see with this funny squiggle, it's saying, hey, are you trying to make a leaf? Is it supposed to be a lobster? Is it different kinds of fruit? Is it a foot or a leg? Is it a key that you're trying to draw? Is it a shell? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to do the cell of for biology? So let's say since it's, oh no, that looks like a pond, not a cell.
How do you erase whatever you draw if you've not, your drawing is not perfect and you want to erase it and start afresh?
So there are a couple of things. Remember, your scribble doesn't have to be perfect, sir. So if you look at my screen, you can see the scribble and you can see it's already trying to find things. But can you see when you click on it, it makes like a border around it? You can delete that. There is also the delete button. If I go over here, let me just get out of this. And if I select, so if you select something, did you see what I did? I clicked on this plus over here, and then I just drew around it. So if I draw around everything, can you see it's made a box around it? Now the dustbin has become active. Can you see here with delete? And then you can click delete and it'll delete it for you. And then to draw, if you want just an ordinary drawing with no auto draw, then you can just click on the pencil and draw. If you want text or you want to add a text box to it, you can just click in text and you can type and you'll see it'll do the typing for you. This is if you want to fill a shape. Here are shapes. So there are a range of shapes that you can use. They're different colors. So you can go in and choose different colors. If you want to zoom in or if you want to undo your work or if you want to delete, you select. So I hope that gives some ideas. Tell me what you're drawing. Tell us what you're seeing. I'd love to know. Can you see just for the simple squiggle there, it started, first of all, it said, are you trying to do different symbols? It then showed you, are you trying to do people who are doing exercises or yoga? Then it started saying different sports. It also included like lamps, you'll see over here, sunrises, shoes. Are you just trying to do a keyboard or something? It goes on to all sorts of unusual things. So let's choose somebody running or playing something. What's this? Oh, so there's looks like a woman playing tennis. And then you can go in and you can, the outline color will stay. But then if you want to color in the object, you can change the color. And now you can go in and you can click on it and you can change the color. So once it's drawn, you can go in and add color to it. Ideas for language. Anybody else think of other ideas? Oh, nice. I'm going to give you a few more minutes and then we're going to move on. That's cool. So Rachel, that's a really nice idea in terms of language. So they could do the letter and then see. So let's try that. So if we go into this and if I make a T. Ah, and then you could say children find those things. Looking at the shape. If we did what if you wrote a word? So let's see if we undo all of this. Oh, it's long, lots. Oh, no, we didn't want to. No, we didn't want to undo that. Okay, let me just delete this again. Not seeing it do that. Cool thought. Could play with it and see what it does. Any other sharing? Yes, facial expression could be really cool. Tessa, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I managed to, I'm able to type on the little paper, but I cannot seem to draw.
Okay, have a look again at my toolbox. Can you see my screen?
Hold on. Yes, I can.
Okay, so if you're in typing text, it means you're on this T over here.
Yes.
You need to go up to this one, the pencil with the stars.
I was there.
Yeah.
And I only saw the cursor on the screen.
Yes, so then you draw.
Yes, I did, but nothing came up.
Just give your computer, if your computer's got lag, it might take a bit of time. So just give it time for the AI to kick in. So you'll see here's the squiggle I've done here, and then these things popped up over there. And then you can scroll through them. So there's a bar, when you start playing on it, there's a bar that'll come up that you can actually move along. So it's not just the ones that you're seeing, you can actually move along and choose.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Anybody else?
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
I'm also stuck. I had my screen auto draw fill the screen, and now everything is like frozen.
It might be just your computer. So AI does use quite a lot of processing power. So if you've still got read along open, my suggestion is close read along so that you've only got one AI tool open at a time. And then
no, sorry, it kicked in now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But thank you so much.
It does take time.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.
Hello.
Hi, sir.
I only have my drawing is only outlines. It's made up of outlines.
That's right.
And I think I missed the other steps because I don't have dual screens on my device.
When you go to the training. Okay, so look back at my screen and I'll talk you through it.
Okay.
So can you see my screen again?
Yeah.
So the first one is you need to be on auto draw. And then if I draw a shape, say for example, I'm trying to draw, I don't know, that this is a pond. So then I'll go in and I'll choose the pond. So the outline of my drawing will be the color I've got over here. So that's the first thing. If you don't want to,
yeah.
Can you see the dot? So when you click on the dot, it lets you change the colors.
Yeah.
Now I want to autofill it. So I want my pond to be blue. So now I'm going to change to blue. And then I'm going to go over here to the fill bucket over here. And now if I click inside it, it's going to make it blue. If I change, let me change the color to something else. Say I want everything on the outside to be another color. My fill is still over there. If I click here, it now makes everything else blue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you want to change a color inside, I don't know if it's going to let us change the color of the fish. Let's see what it does. If I change here, so then it changed my little fish to orange. So if you're inside a shape, it'll change the colors of that little bit of the picture. If you click outside of the shape, it'll change the whole color of the background. So that's the autofill little tool over here. And then you can always go in and add another picture. So say, for example, now I wanted to add an animal. Can you see my background is now orange because I'm on orange? Okay, let's say that we want a horse. So now we've got a horse over here. Then we can go in and we can say, okay, we want our horse to be brown. And then we go to
How did you add
autofill.
that horse without having drawn it?
I drew it. So I went back to the star. I went back over here and I
Yeah.
drew another shape. So I can draw another shape onto the picture.
Okay.
And let's see, maybe this then becomes flower pots. So then you click on your new picture and it adds it. So you can build up on your picture.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And now we can go in and then you can add colors again to each one. So you can change this again and say we want our pots to be red. Then you can click the pots to be red. Let's see if it'll make the tops of the pots blue. No, it doesn't. It makes the whole pot. So we don't have that option. Maybe we want our leaves to be yellow because our background's green. Oh, no, it didn't do that. So can we do an undo? And then can we go inside or is it too small? Ah, there we go. So you can do little bits and pieces.
Okay. No, I got you. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Hi, Dr. Karen.
Hi, ma'am.
I hope this is not irrelevant, but
No,
your
there's
choice,
never irrelevant. There's never irrelevant.
your choices of pictures that you want, are you limited to the ones that is displayed, or say, for instance, you want something that is not displayed there? How do you get it?
No, you're limited to what's displayed. So then you need to think about your sketch, because I think that the AI, I think there are lots of different ones. So it changes all the time. So let's see, what are you wanting to draw? What were you thinking?
No. I was just asking in general. So if you...
So it depends on your sketch.
Yeah.
And the AI will then try and solve the sketch for you. So you'll see if you've done something like this, it'll say, can you see it started doing tents and then buildings and houses, and as you sketching, I think I've lost it now, have I? Yeah, I think I've lost it. No, I haven't. Can you see how it's changing as I'm drawing?
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Thank you.
So you'll see that these are then completely different to what you've got. Oh, look at these. Look, isn't this like an Indabeli house? Yeah. Oh, wow. That's cool. Wow. So look at all of these different ones up here. So, yeah.
Can I also, it's Amarine, can I just ask you, if I want to delete it, I see the dustbin, but it's gray.
Okay, so let me show you again. So you're going to go to the select tool at the top, and then you're just going to draw over it, and you'll see it makes a block around what you want to delete. Can you see it's made a block around my flower pot?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Now I think I'll be able to do that. Thanks.
Yeah, and then you see that the delete becomes black. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you just move away from the drawing tool and go to select and select what you want to delete.
And if you use the undo button?
The undo button undoes your stuff. So it'll undo the last few things you've done. Does that help? So if you want to just undo something you've done quickly, you can undo, but it goes step by step. If there's a whole piece of the picture that you don't want, you can select it and delete that whole picture or that piece.
If I'm zoomed in, how do I make it smaller again? Zoom out.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Oh yeah. So okay. So if you click on zoom, can you see I've got 100 at the top? There's a space.
Oh yes.
Just go back to the 100.
Thank you so much.
I suddenly thought, how do we do this? Okay. Thanks, man. Okay. I'm going to give you 1 more minute and then I'm going to move on. So think about this from a language point of view and the ideas that are shared in terms of how we could use this kind of tool to create a visual dictionary, to get children to be playing a game like charades and developing their language, or getting them to create illustrative stories or comic stories, or collaborating together and making comic strips. So it's not a tool that perhaps the language teacher would think of using, but we need to start showing people it's how do you apply that tool in your context to suit what you're trying to do. I'm going to move on. Another tool, which is also a tool which you don't have to do anything about, it's already there, is called Hello History. Hello History is a company who, what they've done is they have created chatbots for hundreds and hundreds of different historical characters. So how could you use Hello History in a language lesson? What about a historical role play or dialogue? So interview a figure. Learners choose a historical figure and prepare and interview questions using relevant vocab and grammar structures. They would then interview the figure using Hello History and write a summary of the transcript of the conversation. Or what about a debate or negotiation where the learners write their questions beforehand and then begin a debate or negotiation with the historical figures on Hello History and see what are the perspectives, and perhaps then do one and then another and see how they could actually engage. So here we're getting children to research, to use persuasive language, to understand time periods as well. What about creating a dialogue? So learners use Hello History to create a conversation between historical figures, demonstrating their understanding of their personalities or their viewpoints or the language of the time in which the character lived. What about first-person storytelling? So perhaps diary entries or letters, where learners can use the perspective of a historical figure and write a diary entry or a letter using Hello History for research to ensure that the language usage is appropriate for when that person lived. Or what about historical narratives, where the learners can write a short story or a monologue, also from the point of view of somebody who was living through a major historical event and combining the research that they found into creative writing. So here are just some of the characters when you go into Hello History. And I want you to think about how you could use this kind of tool from a language point of view. So having an interview or debating or negotiating with a person or creating a dialogue or diary entries or letters or historical narrative. So we're now going to play in this tool called Hello History. My suggestion is that you please close your other AI tools, that your computer doesn't slow down. As I said just now, the AI does use quite a lot of computer power, and it also slows things down. Where is the chat? Okay, here we go.
Hi, Karen.
Yes, sir. I've just pasted the link for Hello History into the chat. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, what happened? May be my personal problem here. On the screen, you were in the window just at the top right corner, and then there was the slides there. They had a bigger portion. Now the slides, my slides have moved to that portion at the corner there, and you are occupying now the bigger part of my screen.
Okay, I'm looking at the computer now. Maybe that's why it's done it. But maybe you can click on the gallery, the view icon at the top of Teams, and then you could does anybody know, can you do in Teams what you can do in Google, where you can pin a screen so that that's the one that you use all the time? Does anybody know if you can do that? And if you can, could you help, sir, please? Okay, so let me look away from the screen, and is that better if I'm not looking at it? If I'm looking at another screen? Is it better for you?
No, still the slides is right at the top, small right hand corner, and you are now occupying the bigger portion of my device where the slides are supposed to be.
Can you go into the view icon at the top and just play with the different options there and see if you get a different view, sir? So at the top of Microsoft Teams, you've got that little block and it says view. Can you see it?
Yeah, the view there,
click on
there
that
is
and then
galleries.
click on different ones and see what happens.
There's gallery, speaker, together mode, and focus on content. Okay, let's
Maybe
go to
focus on content. What happens when you click on focus on content?
yeah, now your whole what is it? Slide is on my occupies the whole my whole
So does
screen.
that help
I think
you?
it's okay, yeah.
Okay. So you can keep playing with that different view thing to get what you want.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. So if you're playing with Hello History, tell me what's happening.
Yeah, I got it now. You're restored,
Okay.
properly restored. You're at the top right hand corner, and the slides occupies the bigger portion of my screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pleasure. So you'll see here when I'm in it that it's an Android and a Google Play app. So I've got the app on my phone. If you want to, you can download that now and play on your devices. Otherwise, go in and see what they say about education. They've also got a thing that's called Humi. And I was supposed to have a meeting with the developers last week, and the man missed the meeting. So I've got a meeting next week. But Humi looks as if it's an amazing tool. I wanted to share it with you. You can almost create like a school space where you can add the Hello History characters to, and you can then you can set it up so that the children aren't going randomly all over the space, but that the children are actually focused on specific tasks. When I learn more about Humi, I will ask Ricky to share it with you, or perhaps Sean can email me, and when I get it, I can email it to him to share with all of you. My details are also on the document that you are going to get, that Ricky's going to email you. And you can happily email me, and I'm happy to have a discussion further with you about it. So if you're going to Hello History and you look at it for teachers, you will see that they talk about it from a history point of view, but I really think like the examples I showed you were about language, and you'll see here they're talking about Humi. If anybody's playing on their phone and looking at the apps, let us know. Otherwise, if you just want to have a chat or to move on, let me know about that too. But for me, it's a really great tool to get children to think differently. If there are comments or thoughts, let me know. I'm looking at the screen in the chat at the moment, so I can address anything if somebody's typed, or if you want to talk to me, please do so. I really appreciate you sharing and you having your views. Yes, they could. Social sciences classes could come alive. Yeah, could have really interesting viewpoints. Yeah, they do have Greek mythology, yes. So that's cool. From a language point of view, that's really great. They've also got a whole lot of philosophers. You've got natural science, you've got scientists. So your science lessons could interview Einstein or interview whoever's what invention the children are working with, or theory, and the teacher could get the children to discuss that. Reading across the curriculum, very much so. Building context knowledge. I mean, For me, I think it's always sad that other subjects don't think language is important and lives in the space of the language teacher, which is not true, because we should all be building context, vocabulary, and knowledge. Yeah, so reading across the curriculum, I agree, is vital. That's a great point. Thank you. I'm going to move on. So think about using tools like this to just spark an interest in your teachers. And here, the prep is not in terms of knowing how to write AI. It's in terms of how do we use these tools that we've played with now to teach differently, to just think about lessons differently, to create critical thinkers, to create creative thinkers. And I think using tools like this could be a lot of fun. Then other tools that you might want to look at are AI tools for text to speech or speech to text. So in the document that you'll get in the next few days, there's a tool I put in here called Natural Reader. It's a free text to speech app that you could use. But then you've also got Google's text to speech examples. So what I want to show you is how Google's voice typing works. So I'm just going to open up the Google Doc, which is my draft one, and I'm going to share the screen with you. I'm hoping you can see my screen. I can't see my screen. So if you can't see the text screen, then just let me know, but I'm going to show you. So when you open an ordinary Google document, you go into Tools, you go down to voice typing, and then you'll see a block opens over here. There are a range of languages within the space. So you'll see by default, it's English US. It's got Afrikaans. It's got, I think, Zulu's here. I think there are a few other South African languages within the tools. So it's not only English. But you'll see that there is English South African, which is really quite nice. So you choose the language that you want. And then when I click to speak, you'll see that it actually starts typing. So wherever your cursor is, you'll see that it starts typing. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to say, this is how Google's voice typing works. As you speak, it will type. And it will then record everything that you are saying within the space. It isn't always accurate. So you do need to go in and check, but you could also use it so that it creates paragraphs and sentences. So you could say, new paragraph, today we're going to go to the zoo. It's really cold and rainy, so how are we going to cope? Full stop, or question mark should actually be. And so you'll see it puts everything in, even the ums and the ahs, and your children could actually do a voice typing activity here. And then what they could do is they could correct it and correct the spelling. I'm going to stop it. And I want to quickly, I haven't added it in here, but I want to show you another tool. So if you go back into Tools and you now go to Translate Document, you click on Translate Document, and it says it's going to translate it, and you'll see this document's called voice typing. So it's going to make a copy of voice typing. And now we go in and choose the language that we want. And you'll see that there are a range of languages. So we've got Swahili. Okay, so here let's use, so we've got Xhosa and Zulu. So if we choose one, and now what it does is it'll translate it. So you'll see at the top of my screen that it's got the one, but it's made a new document. So it hasn't deleted my old document. I've now got two documents. So here's the Xhosa one, and here's the English one still. So within Google's tools, you've got these two really great tools. So voice typing and translate. And the voice typing also has a range of different tools. So then your students can do voice typing in some of the other languages as well. So I thought just to share. So it makes 2 copies. They could check it and they could engage with it. What I'd like you to do now, or perhaps put it in the chat if you want to quickly spend some time. If you've got a Gmail account open and you quickly just want to explore for about 2 or 3 minutes, then let me know, or should I carry on? If you could look at that. Yes, great for proofreading and editing. Excellent. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you noticed that you did just did a one take. You see, I got the steps from Google. You go to tools and voice typing and language as far as AI tools, text to speech goes. But I didn't see it do it. You see, I just missed the steps. You see, I relied mostly on what I heard you say.
Okay. Are you in your Gmail account, sir?
I'm watching you on the screen and your presentation.
Okay. What I'm asking is, do you have a Gmail account?
I do.
So if you go to your Google Drive and you click new, you would just open a new Google document. So you would just open a blank document. So we're now on the blank document I've opened. You'll see it's untitled. And then inside the Google Doc, you would go tools and you would go down here to voice typing. And then over here, you would choose the language that you want. So I want South African English. So I'm going to go in South African English. Whatever language you're going to speak in, you choose. That's from that list. So you need to look at the list and see what language would be there. You then click on click to speak, and you'll see the microphone becomes red. And then when you talk, it actually types it. Does that make sense?
I think I got that. But what I'm most interested in is that one of maybe I should say text to speech, meaning in case you've got a document, more especially that is written with those small letters, and you don't want to just go there, try to strain your eyes. You just want to get this app to read it for you so you can get the information. That's what I would appreciate if you could maybe explain how that's done.
So you would feed your document in. Let me just see if I've got a text reader on here. So if I show you my screen here, this is a Google extension. And here you've got one called Read and Write for Google Chrome. I don't have it on my pin bar. I don't have it pinned up here. But you could use Read to Write for Chrome. And then when you open a website or you've got a PDF, it will read it for you. But I've also got one on the next slide that I'll show you as well. I hope that helps. So if you go here, if you go into Google itself, so if you search Google Chrome and you say in text to speech, you'll see that there is an option. So let me grab these 2 links for you. Just hang on, let me just see if I've got it above. Yes. I'll paste it into the chat and you can explore. Any other questions or can we move on? all very quiet, so I'm going to move on. Then there's another one called Pal AI, and these are kinds of apps. So there are lots of them that you can go and explore, but these are actually apps that you would use as a personal assistant or as a language tutor. So somebody who would actually help children to learn to speak within their spaces. There are a range of learner AI tools and teacher AI tools which can help with grammar and spell checking. Do any of you use Grammarly or Quillbot? So from a Microsoft point of view, has Quillbot been added to your Microsoft account? So, or Grammarly been added, or do you use either of these tools within the space? Any comments? Grammarly. So Tessa, you use Grammarly. So we've been using these kinds of AI tools for a while, but we probably didn't think of them as AI. And so it's saying, how do we use these tools from a language point of view? How do you know if how do you know if your children are using these grammar tools if they're working on devices at home? And so for me, it's saying, how do we look at our assessments differently and get children to be aware that if they're using them, one, they don't have to always accept the changes that are suggested, and two, that they need to acknowledge it. So when they hand in their assessment, children almost need to say, these are the AI tools that I've used, so that the teacher knows what they are. And that should almost be part of your marking rubric or your marking memo that has a child acknowledge that they've used or what other tools they've used in terms of checking it, especially if at schools where children have access to devices. WordTune is a paraphraser. So if I show you over here, this little funny squiggly W is a paraphraser. Now I'm not sure what it's going to do, if it's going to even recognize anything with this funny sentence. But what it tries to do is it rephrases your statement. So you'll see it gives you different, oh, I'm not showing you. So this little tool over here I clicked on. So this is rewrite, and I've highlighted where I wanted it to look. And you'll see that it goes in and it'll actually rewrite or look at your different sentences. And you've got different ways of looking at it. So this is just the rewrite version. This is if you want a casual tone. This is if you want it formal. Do you want it shortened? Do you want it lengthened? You can also go in and say, do you want a sentence or do you want to select the different options? And then you'll see that you've got different things. If you just click, it's just going to change what you want. If you want to copy this and then close the tool and then paste the suggestion and then see if you like it better rather than just copying straight away. So this little tool is called WordTune that you can add on. Pro Writing Aid is a similar type tool to WordTune. So you'll see Grammarly also has a whole lot of paraphrasing and things now too, and a range of different things, and they've got a paid for version. Quillbot, I believe, can also now be immersed inside of Microsoft, and I'm not sure if it's paid for. And I wish Ricky was here because she uses Quillbot a lot, like I use Grammarly and WordTune and a couple of others. So it's saying, how many of you use these spelling checking tools? So it sounds like not many of you, but some of you might have been using them and not actually realize that you're using a kind of AI. And again, it's saying, how do we get children to be aware that when they're using them, their language must still be their own? Then there are a whole lot of language tools or practicing apps that you could look at. So Duolingo is an amazing website and an amazing app that you can go in and play. You choose the language that you want to, I'm not sharing. Duolingo is really amazing. You choose the language that you want to learn or reinforce. So it's not just for children. You can use it as an adult. You can learn different languages. But if you think about our context of schools where the vast majority of children, English is not their home language, but our language of learning is English, we should say that every child from grade 4 up should be using Duolingo. We should say that every school and every teacher in the foundation and intermediate phase should be using Duolingo ABC. So they've got a baby version with phonics and grammar, and maybe our grade 4 should use that to help them with the conversion from grade 3 to grade 4 and the huge change of language. And then Duolingo, everybody should use right up to matric. It teaches you the language, it builds your vocab, it builds your comprehension. It's fantastic. Is anybody using Duolingo perhaps for a trip or because you're going overseas or just because you want to learn another language within this range? Is anybody using it from that point of view? So no, it's not serving the purpose of Google Translate. It's a teaching tool. So it's actually teaching you the language, Kate. I hope that makes sense. Annelie, are there Afrikaans ones? That's a good question. I don't know. Perhaps you can Google while you're looking at and seeing what, if we type in Afrikaans AI tools. Okay, so Afrikaans text to speech. So it's called Speechify. So maybe that's in other languages too. Deep Brain AI, Afrikaans text to speech. Afrikaans language, there's an AI for that. So it's the app is called There's an AI for App. AI type Afrikaans dictionary. Afrikaans paraphrasing tool, so free paraphrasing tool for all languages, it says. So maybe it's got a whole lot of our different languages in. I've never looked at it. Listener AI, Afrikaans text to speech, Afrikaans transcription screen app. Yeah, so I suppose as teachers, we should just Google and play and see if there's stuff that relates to your context. I hope that gives you some help. Does anybody use Duolingo or has anybody ever used Duolingo? Memrise is also another language learning tool, also has a range of different languages. I'm not sure how many South African languages, but another option. So is Babbel and so is Buso. And there are a whole lot of these kinds of tools. And I suppose it's teaching the teachers to go and play, see which one they like best. Does it suit their needs? What I am excited about is that I've learned about 2 African or South African AI companies that I'll share the details with you near the end in terms of how they're using AI and develop. Oh, I thought I had it further along. So the African software developers are using AI to fight the inequality that we've got in terms of AI. So AI used to tackle poverty and to translate languages. African data is seen as vital in fighting racial bias, and I definitely agree with that. And so they are looking for and getting more funding to get more digital access. So we need a bigger digital impact footprint in Africa. So getting people online, using the different tools, going to google.co.za instead of google.com. And I'll show you why just now. So in fact, while I'm talking about it, let me show you. So if you go to google.co.za instead of google.com, look what you got. So now suddenly you can have your Google in Afrikaans, in Sesotho, in isiZulu, isiXhosa, Setswana, and Northern Sotho. And when you change it, if you click on it, it'll make your whole web page that language. And we really need to get people using these tools, because then we are teaching the AI within those spaces to actually learn and develop from that kind of space. The more we use the tools in the language, the more the AI behind those language models learns the language and fixes the errors in terms of the language. So Google's already got 6 of our languages. If we start getting people to use these and get that right, they'll probably add more. So for me, it's going to google.co.za and teaching people how to use it rather than google.com, which is English. I hope that's helpful. But for me, the exciting thing is we've got these South African companies that are language specific. So Lelapa AI is called Bula Bula, and Bula Bula is a tool where they're actually learning to recognize our different African languages. So here you can see it currently available. They got English, Afrikaans, Zulu, and Sesotho. And then they're saying this is the kind of thing. So transcribing, converse, or analyze information. And then they're looking at speaking and translating. So look at their sense of humor. I think this is beautiful. So teaching people how we say people's names, that we say Tsepo and not Chepo. And that cunt means side, you know, that whole controversy in terms of the rugby a while ago. So they've got a great sense of humor on top of this as well. But so we've got companies who are based in South Africa who are trying to address and help this from a language point of view. And maybe as a department, it's reaching out to them and saying, how can we actually use this where it says try? How can we use it so that you can improve it and help them improve as well? Another one that is around is Vambu AI. So Vambu AI is also looking at a range of different languages. So they are looking at addressing indigenous language and the ability to use artificial intelligence to improve or access to native tongue. I just want to, I see I didn't put the link there. Let me just click and get it open. So I'll go to this tab. So this is Vambu AI. And again, they've got a thing saying try it now. So you could go in and see what they can offer. For me, you could also reach out and contact them or talk to their developers. But for me, it's really exciting that we've got at least 2 South African AI companies that are looking at language specific for our different contexts. Wouldn't that be so exciting? Then whatever language you're teaching, you could pop the resources into a tool and it can translate it for you, or it could help you write the different languages. And just think about how we could quickly translate books and things so that everybody then has access to the information. For me, this is incredibly exciting and a wonderful way in which AI can actually help lots of people. If there are any thoughts or comments, I would love for you to share. Anybody got anything you want to say around this?
Hi, Karen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was wondering if you can navigate this indigenous AIs whilst we are looking and just see what is in the site or their page.
You would probably have to put in a prompt, and maybe we can come back here just now when I've taught you about prompting. So you would probably have to put in a prompt and then ask it to translate. So can we try and come back to that, or perhaps you can try just now when we're trying some of the others. So my Zulu is very limited, and my Afrikaans, I don't speak much anymore either. So I wouldn't be a really good one from a translation point of view, but I'm happy to have a chat. The other thing is these companies are happy for you to share. So I would reach out to them and say to them, hey, how can we explore these kinds of things in our context? But can we come back to this because it would relate to prompting and see if we can see something here. I don't have accounts for them either. So let's see if there's a cost involved or whatever, but we can do that just now if you'd like. Is that okay?
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, I haven't really answered your question, but yeah. Oh, I did put let's play, but I haven't. Okay, let's go in and just see. What did I see last night that I thought we could play? Oh, so this is what. So ma'am, yeah, maybe this is what you're thinking. So you can go in and you can choose the language that you put your input in, and then you can say the reply. So I see we've got isiXhosa, isiZulu, and Afrikaans. So those are they've got 4 languages here. So if we go in and we say, my name is Karen, and then let's say the reply we want in Zulu. Oh, it took my question away. Let's try again. My name is Karen, and then go. So there's my English, and there it's creating the Zulu. Does that help? And it's saying to you, check it. Are you happy with it? So you can allow me. You can see I haven't. Sorry, for the Zulu speakers, I'm very sorry. Gingu Karen. So if I remember correctly, that's correct. So then you can tell it, yes, I'm happy with that. And then
Sorry,
you could
Dr.
write
Karen.
sections. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm not sharing.
Yes.
Okay. So here we go. So you choose let me click on the link. Let me give it to you all. Notes. I'll paste it in the link and then you guys can quickly play through it. So if I share the right screen this time, so you go in and you choose the language when it opens. Your beta means that they're still learning, that it's still an experiment. It's not a finished product. So you pick your asking language and you pick your replying language. So I chose Zulu. You can see it's got Xhosa, Afrikaans, Swahili, Portuguese. So I'm going to choose Zulu again. And you'll see there's my first statement that I asked in English, and here's the Zulu response. And then you'll see next to it, it says copy. So you can now copy this and put it in your document. How old are you? And you'll see there's my English question on the right, and there's my Zulu answer on the left. So it looks like it's telling me how old they are. Perhaps let's see if I put this, make this Zulu now and change this to English. And now I paste what they've told me and I pop it in here. So now you'll see I put the Zulu on that side and it's grabbing it and turning it back into English. And let's see what it's saying. Wow, I'm impressed. That's a lot of experience in such a short time. I don't know if that's actually answering my question. It's not translating it. It's actually having a conversation, looks like. So if somebody can tell me, if a Zulu speaker can tell me what it's told me over here. Let me see if I pop it into Google Translate, if it'll tell me what it is. So I'm now going to Google Translate. Can you see how you can start using a whole lot of different AI tools? So I'm popping this in here. And it's selected Kosa, and it's saying I'm an AI artist created by Vambo AI, and I'm currently a few years old. So it's telling me how old it was. So you can get students to start using different tools to actually analyze information and find out information and explore, just like we're playing here. Hope this has given you some ideas and thinking about language differently, or teaching of language differently. Should I give you a bit more time? Let me know what you think.
Yes, a few minutes, please.
Sure, thank you. Okay, thanks. I'm pleased it makes sense.
Dr. Karen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm busy practicing, but I've noticed that it's like whatever they loaded, it's more than in a practical speaking of the language. What I did, I typed good morning in English and I wanted it to translate it into Shona, whereby I've got basics on Shona. I wanted to see, but it went further and ask, how are you doing today? Whereas I just typed good morning, where it was supposed to say Mangwanani and stop.
So the way they've then set it up is they've actually set it up as an AI learning tool, and we'll go and play with that just now. So if you want to just look at it from a translate, then take it and see, is there Shona in Google Translate? I don't know if there is. So go to Google Translate and
there is, it translated.
Okay. So then we can be using the two different tools. So what they've actually created is a language model. So then I'll be explaining that in the next couple of minutes.
Sorry, doctor. You were saying Shona in Google Translate.
Yes, is it there? I don't know. I've never
No. That I haven't checked. I'm sorry, I haven't checked that.
I was just thinking that if it does that, oh, it is here. So if I go, if you can see my tab again, I've just scrolled down on the languages in Google Translate and I see Shona is here. So you could take the two languages or the language, say the Shona, and if it's added more, or if the child thinks it's added more, they could then go here if the language is here, and they could double check what it's written.
Okay, it's just like to get second opinion on a language.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose we can say to children, how are you analyzing it? What tools did you use to check it and analyze it? Maybe there's a physical dictionary in the classroom. Maybe there's a physical language speaker that another child can verify it. Then they could put it in the AI and see is the AI accurate to what speaker said. There are just so many ways that we can then get children to be using it to explore differently. So I suppose we don't want classrooms where everybody's quiet and sitting writing in their books. It's saying how we're using the technology to change the way we engage. How do we change our teaching strategies? I'm going to give you 1 more minute and then I'm going to carry on. So you could go to google.co.za, choose a language, create a whole, find a section, go to Google Translate and translate it there using the different AI tools, one for the website, one for translation back into a language that perhaps they understand or check. Or you could put the comment into a learning model and then from there see what kind of response you get. So for me, teaching then looks at focusing as the teacher, not as a teacher-centered teacher classroom, but really as the facilitator. So think about AI as not replacing the language teacher. It's about transforming the language teacher into the ultimate facilitator, armed with huge insights and tools to make their lessons really, really count. saying, how do we do this within this learning space? So now I want us to talk about large language models, LLMs, and I'm sure you might have heard the term. So I want to just explain what that is. So a large language model is a type of artificial intelligence that can recognize and generate text. They're trained on huge sets of data, and that's why they're called large. The data is absolutely enormous. It's built on machine learning, and it's machine learning specifically on a neural network that's called a transformer model. So for examples of large language models, you might have used ChatGPT. If you've used any of these, pop them into the chat, or Google's Gemini, or Llama, or Azure's, which is Microsoft's, Azure's language model, or even Amazon's deep learning AI. Which AI tools have you tried? Perhaps you've used another one, or also tell us if you've never used one before. Quickly pop that into chat. Gemini. Yeah, I love Gemini. Just love it. So lots are using ChatGPT. Cool. Come on, there are 44 of you. The answer should be popping up quick. Let's go. I hope you're all getting involved and engaged. Nice. I'll come back and have a look at what people have said, but I want to move on. So I want us now to think about AI bias. So AI bias is also called machine learning bias or algorithm bias, and it's produced because of the database that it uses, and it reflects and perpetuates human bias if we don't watch it. So for example, within a society, including historical and current social inequalities. So for example, one might be how it was trained, the training of the database. For example, training the data for facial recognition algorithm that overrepresents white people may create errors when attempting facial recognition for people of color. So databases need to be trained. So if we start as not white people, start having Google Photos and start actually teaching the photos inside of your Google Photos who the people are and putting names on, in the back end, if you've allowed for the data to be trained, they don't actually know who the people are. But what it is you're adding to this pool of changing the bias and having more photos of people not just that are white. And that's one way that we can help with it. Algorithm bias. So the actual algorithm that was written, that the indicators like income or vocabulary might be used in the algorithm that unintentionally discriminates people against a certain race or a certain gender or a certain socioeconomic group. Or cognitive bias is the cognitive bias that can lead to favoring data sets gathered from Americans rather than sampling from a range of populations. So if it says, okay, only look at this group of people, then you are leaving other people out. So this was from IBM's document. But then there are other forms of bias. So contextual bias arises when the large language models struggle to understand or interpret the context of the conversation or the prompt accurately. And misunderstanding the context can lead to the generation of inappropriate or misleading responses. I want you to think about that really critically. Every time you put something into a ChatGPT or a Gemini, we need to tell them we South African. We need to talk about our different race groups. We need to talk about the different kind of people. We need to talk about our context, because then we are removing this contextual bias. We as the inputter can have an impact in terms of how we can benefit our continent, our people from a South African and an African point of view. And I feel really strongly about it, that some of this control is actually in our hands, And it's that we're not just putting in the comments and it just assumes that we're from Europe or America, that we keep saying we South African, we're in Africa. Draw children that are not white, draw children that have a dark skin color, describe what we look like. So removing all of those things and teaching the computers, because that's what we're doing. Every time you put a prompt in, you're teaching them. So it's how are we teaching them about us? And in our prompting, we're teaching them about us. Data scientists need to fine-tune the models and carefully curate their prompts to better comprehend the context, to avoid generating this. But we can also, from our point of view. So this was from a Forbes article. So from an African point of view, how can we address this? So one, it's saying close the digital divide. So the more people who have devices, the more people that are on the internet, the more people that are buying things online, the more people that are discussing things online, the more we're feeding into these big databases. Because the big databases are not saying, this is Joe's soap stuff. It's saying, this person who is this bracket, because on Facebook, you would say how old you are. Somewhere else, you put your birthday. Somewhere else, you're saying where you live. Somewhere else, you're talking about. And the data then finds this character of who you are. And the more people who are, from an African point of view, are putting their things online, the more we are feeding into these big databases that are not looking at the individual, but looking at the group. And so we're removing the bias. To change the input, African countries only contribute a really small portion of the data that's used to train artificial intelligence, which leads to bias for local users. So that's why we need more people online. The focus on more data production and dissemination, it's not just about the protection. Governments need to actually look at, or policymakers need to establish a robust governance structure and infrastructure to improve not only the design, but the development of the AI. So governments can also have an impact in terms of how they are formulating the policies to say, how do we remove bias? How do we remove the discrepancies within that? So by the adoption and use of artificial intelligence technologies. Industry stakeholders have a duty to focus on capacity development to enhance the adequate AI skills that are required for responsible AI use to address African-specific needs and problems. And so we can actually find companies that are saying they're focusing on helping Africa and seeing how that can be of benefit to us. So how can we help just within our spaces? As South Africans and as teachers using AI, it's our prompts. We need to describe our South African context. We need to tell the AI where we live in terms of South Africa. We need to describe our learners or the characters of a story we're writing, or even when we're setting an assessment, we need to talk about the gender, the age group, the grade, so that the questions it puts out are relevant to those students and that it helps them removing the bias. We need to teach AI about our continent. So it all revolves around a prompt. The prompt is the sentence that you put in. Those of you who were playing now in Woomba, that was prompting. You were telling the AI what it was. So it's a language model. You were telling it what it wants and how it actually works. So it's all about the question and how you speak to the AI or the statement that you use. So for me, it's how do we actually engage this within our lessons? So while I'm speaking, I want you to think of a topic. And I want you to think about how you would ask the questions around the topic. So first of all, we all know blooms. So if we think of lower order thinking questions, your understanding and remembering kind of questions, it would be a lower order thinking question. So if I could ask you to open a Google Doc or a Microsoft document, and I want you to write down a lower order thinking question. And now I want you to take that question and I want you to turn it into a description. I want you to think about how you would describe that situation that the question is, so that you would get the output of the question. What would you write? So if you want somebody to come up with the answer of how old are you, what would you tell the computer to write, or what would you write down so that they would say, how old are you? It's almost like, what is the answer in this instance? So the description might be something like, find out from the person the age that they are and when they were born, and write it as a question. Does anybody want to share what they've done and what they're thinking? Oh, nice, Lindsay. I like that. Great. Generate a question that finds out the age of the person. Great. Cool. Let's move on. So now, if we move beyond that, and we're now going into middle order thinking. So now we're looking at applying or analyzing this topic that you were wanting to say. What would a middle order question be? Write that down. And when you've written it down, write the description about that question's context so that you'll think about the question, or that the question will become your answer. How is your thinking changing in terms of the description? So the description for the lower order thinking question might be really simple. What happens to the description now when it becomes a middle order thinking question? How does that change? Does anybody want to add anything or comment? Unmute yourself and talk. Nice. Can you see how it becomes more complex? And then if we move into higher order thinking, where we want analyzing and evaluating or creating, if we're using Anderson instead of Bloom's, then what would you now be thinking? What would this higher order thinking question be? And how would this description then have changed? Any comments or thoughts? So for me, it's all about the question. It's all about the statement and the prompt. And we really need to think about that very carefully before we do that. So when we are prompting, we're talking about text generation, and we're looking at generating a coherent and a creative text. So one, we need to be specific about the topic and the context that you want the text to be about. You want to provide examples or templates for the desired output. You want to use language that is consistent with the desired tone and style. So if it gives you something and it's too difficult for your children, you need to tell it, no, these are younger children. These are only grade 7s, or these are only grade 6s. You need to make it simpler or easier, or vocab to give it. If you've got a reference of a website, or you've got the like the CAPS curriculum website. You could grab that URL, find the page that it should be referencing, and actually say, look at this website, look at this page, and find the information that you want to put it to draw information on. If we're looking at question answering type things, you want something to be concise and accurate. So therefore, you need to ask clear and concise questions. You need to provide a context where the question is to help narrow down the scope of the answer. So you need to use language that is consistent with the language of the answer that you are wanting. If it's an idea generation thing and you're brainstorming or you're generating new or unique ideas, you need to be specific about the problem or the challenge that you want to solve. You need to use open-ended questions to spark creativity. You want to provide examples or constraints to focus on the idea generation. So before we go into the actual AI tools, I want us to play in a tool called Marking AI. And Marking AI is actually a South African AI company, and they've developed a tool to create assessments and then to get them marked. What you can see in the demo is you can actually go in and you can create an assessment, and you can go in and mark them one at a time. But when you go in, when you sign up with them, and they not free, it is a paid for solution, but they would then, you then get a dashboard where you can then bulk mark different things. You can do it a couple of different ways. If your children have access to devices, they can actually do it digitally and then add it. But they're telling me that in the next few weeks, they will be loading or adding a section where they'll recognize handwriting. Just think about that. So your children can write the answers and the AI will learn to mark it. So I want to log in. Let's see. So I created a free account in Marking AI. So if you want to click on the link, and then if you want to go here and go create an assessment, you'll see at the moment they only have FET subjects. I said to them the other day they should add all of the GET subjects as well. So they're busy doing that at the moment. I believe that they're going to add them. But you'll see that you call whatever you want. So you'll see the example in gray here says grade 10 chemistry. So you can choose your language one, then you go to the subject. So you'll see they've got the home languages and they've got additional languages curriculums here. If you want them to add other languages, my suggestion is you need to email them and say to them, please add and all the other subject languages that could be added. You then choose the grade. They've got all the grades, but like I said, the subjects are not here. You say how many sections. So I'm just going to call this test. And let's just choose, I don't know. Let's say English additional language. And we're going to say grade 7. And let's say we want our section, we want 2 sections. And then next, what we would say is how many marks do we want per section? So if you think about it, you need to have done some planning before you go into the tool. So how many marks do we want? Let's say we want only 10 marks. And how many questions? We want short answer questions. And we want maybe 5 questions. And then the topics. Let's say vocabulary. Sorry, I'm thinking on the fly. And this is why writing the prompt in a separate document becomes so very important, all your planning and things like that. So vocabulary about nature for grade 7 learners. And using the words in sentences. And then you need to give it examples of words. So say for example, so you would write all of this and then copy and paste it. So you wouldn't be sitting doing what I'm doing now. This is a really bad example in terms of showing typing. It should just be, you've got it on a document and you copy and paste it. Mountain, valley, stream, river, forest, desert. And then would you like to edit the distribution of the difficulty levels? So let's say yes. And then you can say lower order thinking, we want leave it at 30%, middle order 40, higher order. So the split looks quite nice. So we're happy with that. And we go next. In our second section, how many marks? Let's go 10. What type of questions? So we want a long, or let's say multiple choice. Let's see what it does for multiple choice. How many questions? Let's also say 5. And the topic here is pollution in the natural environment. And then let's check again. So if we're happy with that, and go next, and let's see what it does. So then you click on generate, and then it will generate it for you, and you can download it as a PDF. And you could print it. So I hope you're playing. So Lindsay, just email them. They're really great, guys. If you can't find the email addresses, email me and I'll do an intro mail with you and them. They're improving their tool all the time. It would be really great if different language people hopped in and chatted to them, that we can really get their tool useful for all our different languages in South Africa from an assessment point of view. So for me, one, it's a South African company and we should be seeing how we can be supporting them. Secondly, it's also saying, how do we make these tools easy for teachers to use? When it's made, you can go in and preview, and then you can see what it's actually done. You can also go in and set up your marking guide, which is really great. So for me now, what it does is it actually looks at each question, and then you suggest tips and things within that space. Just make sure you're in the account that you want to be in. You'll see that for me, it tried to put me into another one of my Google accounts. On the platform, when you have your full teaching space, you actually go in and you create the prompts for your marking. And if it's a long essay, you actually put in a whole lot of information. It's really, really great. So this free version is really simple and basic, but the older one is really great. I'm going to say now, perhaps if we could have just a 15-minute break, if that's okay. There's still quite a lot that I want to go through, and I don't want to go over time. Is 15 minutes enough for a break? So if you want to carry on playing and chatting to me in that break, I'm happy to do that. If you want to go and have a break, I'll wait till 11:15, or just before 11:15, and I'll carry on. Is everybody happy with that?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. So grab
Thank
a cup
you.
of tea, stretch your legs. Yeah, carry on playing, whatever you like. Thanks. Sir. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and chat during this break time, I'm happy to do that. If you want to have a conversation between yourselves, I'm happy for you to do that, whatever suits you. Lindsay, can you unmute yourself?
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to check, are you going to show us the marking process or?
Oh, the marking process here on this one is, you've just got to copy and paste it. In their actual portal, I haven't got a board subscription. You actually, it marks the whole paper for you, and the process is much more. It's really nice in terms of marking stuff, but I can't actually demo that. So it's part of their paid solution to get it marked.
I just want to understand. So is it like multiple choice and then learners would tick off A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or is that how they've done it? And then, or is it an online assessment?
So there are a couple of ways that what really excites me about the option is, oh, I've got to do all of this again. Okay, let me just choose anything. Just do one section. So here, where it's got types of questions, it's not just multiple choice. So you've got multiple choice, short answer, long answer, essay, and presentation. So those can all be options in your assessments. Okay. And then they've got this really cool feature where you actually set up the, so I'll show you the video when we come back after tea. Okay. But they've got this cool feature where you set up your descriptors, like your prompts. You actually write them for your assessment tool. And then if it's a digital one, the children can just feed it in automatically and submit, like on their portal. Yeah. But they've also said that if like your school doesn't have internet connectivity, but children have access to computers, you could share the PDFs with them or the documents with them, and then they could fill it in, and then you can feed up the PDFs for it to mark. Okay. But the other cool thing that they're working on at the moment is you could print like a PDF. You could print the document. Children can handwrite it. You could feed up the handwritten one, and it'll mark the handwritten one as well. Yeah. Okay. No, because I was just thinking if it was, because obviously the schools that we support, not all of them have access. And like you were saying, the issue of the digital divide. So if they would still be able to print and have the kids answer in whichever form and then upload it, I think that would help. But if it was just a virtual one, it might have been a bit difficult. But then that means this is quite useful. Yeah, and that's what when he told me that a while ago. That's what made me excited, especially from a South African context.
Yeah.
Yeah, that if they get the handwriting, which I think would be difficult, but I suppose over time it would learn all the different handwriting. So I mean, if we've got lots of handwritten ones in that we could help teach the handwriting version as well, and just sort of see the accuracy, because I mean their machines would have to learn the handwriting as well. I mean, there's not just one script. For me, that's really complex. It would be interesting to see how well it does the handwriting one. Yeah.
I also think it would be determined, I think, more by what type of devices the learners are using, because if you have to scan a document, that also would distort. But I know, like myself, if I use my iPad, I can write in my own squiggly handwriting and it recognizes it. But if I'm writing on a piece of paper and I scan it and take the scan to text, it comes out as gibberish, you know? So I think it's also that as a determiner.
Yeah, and maybe it's saying, okay, how do we experiment with you guys and teach your models, and how could we get this right? Because I think for me, if we got the concept right, wow, that could be a real game changer. Like really.
Yeah, so like I said in the chat, I usually use for schools, I use Worksheet AI, which is only doing half of this process. So this would actually be a very good introduction to the teachers, because Worksheet AI, it's good for just generating the resource. There is a marking guideline, but the teachers still have to physically mark. Whereas obviously with this one, it would be a lot easier, especially with a large number of learners as well.
Yeah, so I mean, on their free version, they've got this where you can put in the child's name and the question and what it's out of, and then literally copy and paste the child's answers in, and then it gives them the mark. But you see here where you're creating, so this is the marking descriptor. You write your prompt here, and then it's in. So if it's saved as part of your assessment already, because I'm not in any tool, if you've actually done it, then that all pops up, and you can choose the question and the marks and things populate, and you just paste the kids' answers in, and then it marks. But this is 111. But in their paid version,
you can have a batch.
Yeah. And they're actually looking for schools to pilot with at the moment. They're very keen to pilot with schools and see how we can improve this and what we can do. Yeah. So yeah. So I think there's lots of, for me, it's exciting that we've even got a company doing something like this, and the way they're thinking about it is from a South African point of view, where we know not everybody's on the same platform, you know, not everybody's got devices. Yeah, I was super excited when I found it.
No, that's cool. I think I'll send you an email, and then we can try and get in touch with them as well.
Yeah, sure. I'll pop my email into the chat over here if you'd like also.
Okay.
It's horrible and long. I'm sorry. Yeah, so it's just Karen Walster Consulting.
Okay, perfect. Let me send you an email now, right, as we're busy.
Cool. If anybody else wants to share or talk or share what you're doing, or please do. If anybody just wants to also talk about, are you happy with the direction the workshop's going? Is there something else you want us to try and explore? I'm hoping to have some time at the end that we'll also have time for questions and other things. but if you're happy with what you're seeing and that you're learning some stuff, let me know that as well. Sharika, I'm pleased you're learning a lot. If you've got any questions, unmute yourself. There's nobody here, or everybody's at tea. So if you like to chat, unmute yourself and let's chat. I'm sure we can ask Ricky how we could do this for teachers. From my personal point of view, I've got 3 different SACE endorsed courses. So I've got AI in education, I've got leadership strategy and AI policy creation, and then I've got AI in assessment. So I've got those 3 workshops, and I've got one that I haven't submitted to SACE yet called AI in the classroom. So I do a range of different workshops, and then I can also do high level overview ones, like just an informing kind of one. But this type of one, I'm sure if we wanted, Ricky would have us present it to other spaces. Yeah, and I'm not sure how often your workshops are face-to-face. I've been doing lots of this face-to-face also, where people have their devices and play and we're in the same space.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I do think that it's something that we need to take to our schools. There's a lot of resistance I see, especially with the not old but older educators, where they just, you know, they're just completely against it. But I think in Afrikaans we say onbekend is onbemind. So
yeah, that's true.
I really think that if we can, you know, just show them the positives of this as well, it can make our lives so much easier. It can integrate technology into the classroom and get the kids more excited, you know, so that we don't do the regular chalk and talk anymore. We can't do that. We need to keep up.
Yeah, we do. And for me, age mustn't be a thing. I'm not young. I think age is a state of mind, and if we're in the classroom, we must be prepared to learn. I get angry with young and old who say no. Yeah, for all the different tech. AI is, as Vicky said at the beginning, AI is just one of the tech kind of things I play with. Saying we could change our classrooms really amazingly. Thanks, Judy. Yeah, that's true. We need to expose parents too. Yeah. I'm going to talk about it just now, but one of the things that really scares me about AI is if teachers are saying no to it and are really anti it, and they are sending homework home, and if children have got devices, they're playing. And I don't care where you're looking at it, even in your poorest or most rural areas, if children have got devices, they're exploring, they've heard about artificial intelligence, they are using it to create answers. And if we are sending homework home, as we traditionally have been sending homework home, and we then mark and we think, wow, this is amazing, and we give children really great marks, and then suddenly they've got to sit an exam where they never use it, and suddenly our marks are really dreadful, we're going to be in a worse space that we were beforehand. And so for me, it's saying we really, really need to think about things differently because of these tools. We really need to, change how we teach. We've got 4 more minutes, and then I'm going to carry on. If anybody else wants to say anything, yeah. Yeah, yeah. And so if we're not teaching children to use it creatively, to analyze it and not just accept it. So we really need to get children to become analytical in their response and not just say, oh, the AI told me this and so I'll accept it. But it's true. The littlies are playing. Yeah. Thanks, Yvette. So just before I carry on officially, you've heard people talking about different tools they used. So in 2013, you saw the growth of AI. And so if you look at the stats, you've got a $25 trillion worth that AI is being used just last year, and 2/3 of jobs could be partially automated by AI that they're estimating, and that the global AI market is close to 208 billion. I mean, that's just ridiculous in 1 year, and the market size is expected to reach 2 trillion. So look at the growth. In terms of just from a money spend and the type of investment that different companies and people are putting into it. It's not going to go away. And so we really, really need to say to teachers that we're using these tools. If you're looking at here from Inside Intelligence, they're saying that over 20% of the generative AI users are your 25 to 34-year-olds. And I'm not actually sure if there's stats on younger children. But it's really, really interesting. So it's 1:15 and I'm going to carry on. So you use these tools to build assessments, and so sign up and begin. So thanks for the playing over there. I want to play you Marking AI's video. I really hope that you'll be able to hear my tab. Oh, wait, it's at the end. Let's just.
personalized feedback to your students' assessment submissions. So here I've set up a geography assessment. I've made it 30 marks. I've set my due date, and I can also provide a description and instructions to the students. I need to upload 2 documents. The first document contains your instructions to marker, which is essentially your marking guide or your rubric. And the second upload is the assessment that you'll be sharing with your students in order to submit and be scheduled for marking. So let's create our assessments. Great, we've now received a unique URL that we can share with our students so they can upload their assessments. We've now transitioned to our student dashboard, whereby the student receives the unique URL from the educator and pastes it into their browser. They can then download the assessment, complete it, and upload it into the box below. Once they click submit, their assessment has now been submitted and is ready for the marking to be scheduled.
So in this instance, if a school doesn't have Wi-Fi, this is where a teacher could share a PDF with children from a digital point of view, and where the teacher can then upload all of them at the end. And remember, like I said, they're busy working on the handwriting one. So then it could become a paper-based one where the children could fill it in and you would upload that marked version as well. So a handwritten version.
Now, this is where the magic happens. We are now logged back in as the educator and the entire class have submitted their assessments. And as you can see in this column, all the assessments have now been marked by our AI tool. They currently have the status ready to review, so let's dive in and have a look at Lisa's submission. Along the left-hand side, you can see the list of questions for the assessment and the associated number of marks. In the middle, you can see the student answer that was provided to each question and the instructions to marker that you uploaded whilst you were creating your assessment. On the right-hand side, you can see the mark provided by the AI for each question, as well as the feedback to the student and the AI justification for why that particular mark was given. You can work through question by question, looking at the mark and feedback that was provided, and you can edit it accordingly if you desire. Once you're happy with all of the questions and you've reviewed them, you can complete the review, which then updates the status of the submission from ready to review to reviewed. Once you've completed your review of all the assessment submissions and you're happy, you can publish the marks to your students. We're now back on the student dashboard, who will have received an email from their educator once the marks were published. That email directs them straight to their assessment submission, whereby they can analyze their mark and their feedback. The mark is given broken down question by question, and the student can receive in-depth personalized feedback on each question submission from their assessment to identify areas of improvement. We hope we can save you tons of time as an educator whilst providing that really important feedback loop to your students and helping them improve on their learning outcomes.
So for me, I think this tool is great. As I was saying during the break, for some of you that are looking for schools to pilot. So if you're keen to explore piloting with marking AI and getting the tool really perfected from a South African context, they're based in Cape Town, but I think they're really happy to get schools anywhere that are willing to learn more. But then, I don't know if you're watching the right tab. Can you see the AI quiz maker? Am I in the right tab? Can somebody tell me, please?
Yeah, that's fine now.
Oh, great, thank you. So there are other marking AI tools. So AI quiz maker is another one. There's one that you can use with Google Forms. So it actually helps you to create quizzes inside of Google Forms. It's called GPT for Forms. And then there's another really nice one that I like, which is called Revisely. What Revisely does is you make AI flashcards or quiz generators, and it's actually not an assessment tool, but it's to help build children's content knowledge or vocab or understanding with either flashcards or quiz generators. So, and just different ways of looking at assessment tools. So we started looking at the assessment and thinking about all the detail you would need to prepare to do an AI assessment. If you're wanting to use like ChatGPT or to use one of the other language models, we need to really think about how we're writing the prompt, how we're putting that description together. So we need to plan the prompt. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to open a document, whether it's a Microsoft document or a Google document, doesn't matter. And I want you to write a topic for your lesson that you're going to teach this term. You're not teaching, what you're going to use this term, or that you could look at from your language point of view, and describe the use of that situation. So I want you to plan your prompt really well. Think about all the things we spoke about just now, the context, the age. Is it an essay you want examples with? Is it a multiple choice kind of question? Or is it a different activity that you want? Or is it saying use this tool for helping with ideas? Say, for example, you want a grade 9 activity and you want to use auto draw, and you say, okay, so this is what we're learning in language around this, and I'd like to use auto draw, create a resource idea for me. So you could ask the learning language model, a large language model, any of those kinds of questions. But I want you to take a few minutes to write a descriptor for something as a resource, whether it's an assessment or an activity or a rubric or something. I want you to write a descriptor for me on a separate sheet, please, on a digital sheet, not a piece of paper. So a digital sheet that you can copy and paste. I want you to plan a prompt for a language activity. And if somebody's nearly finished a prompt and would like to read it and share with us, that would be great. So plan your prompt. What do you want the AI to do for you? How do you want this AI to help you? When you are done writing it, can you please put done in the chat so that I know when to move on? Don't take too long. If you want to give tips to others about what you think they should include from a language point of view, unmute yourself and do that. I'm going to give you 3 more minutes and then I'm going to move on. I really hope that you're all generating really great prompts. What is the description? What do you want the AI to do? So now that you've written the prompt, so you've opened a document and you've started to write, you've selected the topic you're going to teach, and you've written the description that you're wanting. Now what you're going to do is you're going to copy that and you're going to paste it into a bot. And I'm going to give you a link just now. Once you've pasted it and you've pressed enter, you're going to copy that result out of there and you're going to paste it into your Word document where you've got your prompt, and you're then going to read it really, really critically. Then you're going to think about, do you adjust the prompt or are you happy with the response you've got? And you're now going to paste the new prompt back into the chatbot, and you're going to keep refining until you are happy. So the tool that I really want you to use is Google's Gemini. You're going to paste your prompt, you're going to get your response, you're going to copy it, and you're going to paste it back into your separate page. So we are now going to play with Google's Gemini. I'm going to grab the link and I'm going to paste it into the chat. I hope we've got lots of people back and it's not just cameras and mics. I hope that there are people behind all these circles that I'm not just talking to myself. So tell me how it's going when you're playing in Gemini. My suggestion is you log in with your Gmail account. The advantage of logging in with your Gmail account is then it keeps all your things for you within your space, and then it's secure within your space. It's not going out into the open world just with everybody's comments. So keep it within your space. So you'll see that I play in Gemini a lot. You'll see that there are lots and lots of prompts that I keep, and you can see that I've even been playing for today's workshop. So it recognizes me. I'm logged in with my Karen Wallster Consulting account. So it's a Google account. And you can then generate and share different things. But what I'd like you to do is go down to the bottom here and paste the prompt that you have written. So go in and paste your prompt for the document that you have created. And then I want you to tell me what you are seeing and if you are happy with it. Remember to be polite. So say good morning, say hello, add that to your prompt, and always remember to add a thank you at the end as well. If you're not sure what to do or you are stuck, let me know. I've just written a prompt and it's got a statement generated. If anybody else wants to comment. Ah, thanks, Rika. That looks great. Nice. So if you want to just look at my screen, I've got Gemini open. So I've said, hello, please could you write a short description of a writing task for grade 9 South African learners who need to write a creative piece of writing about South African public holidays. The task should have an introduction, development, and conclusion. It should have creativity in the response by the learners as to why public holidays are important. And then I clicked submit. And then you'll see underneath here, what it's done is it says, okay, here it's looking at an introduction, it's giving an example and the development, and then here are prompts. So they've got one for a personal essay, a poem, a short story, a news report, and then it says, remember, when exploring the importance of public holidays, consider these aspects. If you scroll down, you'll see there 3 little dots. Click on the 3 little dots and click copy. Now that you should then copy into your Word document. What you can do is you could now take one of these examples. So you can copy it into the document and you can leave it there that you've got it. And you could now say, okay, I want it to explore writing a news report. So let's grab the news report one. And then you can write a prompt about this. So if I'm now going to copy this, so I'm going Control-C, and I'm saying, thank you very much. And I'm now saying, please expand on this task and turn it into an assessment task. Use the DBE, I don't know if it knows this, but let's see, 8-point marking scale for the marking criteria for the quality of the response to this task, and then put a colon, paste your task, and then see what it does. So you're now having this conversation with the AI as it's looking at it. So it's saying South Africa in 2074, in the shocking announcement, the government has abolished public holidays previously known as, and you can put in, so for example, it says Heritage Day, citing unforeseen economic challenges, the decision has sparked public outrage and concern. As a news reporter for the SABC, you are tasked with creating a news report detailing public reaction and the potential impact on South African society. So it's expanded on the idea, and we've asked for a news one. So there it's expanded on it. Here it's looked at the marking criteria. It said that it's going to be, the content is going to be 4 marks, and then it explains how you get the marks, the communication. Yeah, so have a look at things like that. Then you would copy this again, paste it, put it into your document, say, how would you tweak it again? Tell me how it's going. I'd love to know what you're thinking, if this is working. Is this beneficial? What I'm showing you?
Volume, sir.
Hi, ma'am, can I help? If somebody's talking, can I help? I see, Letitia, you've got your hand up, and Kate, you've got your hand up. Angelique, are you speaking? Can I help?
Yes, good. That's Latia speaking. Good morning.
Hi.
You know, this got me so interested. I also did as you requested, and I've pasted my request, and my request was I needed a summary actually, because one of the assessment for this term is all about learners writing a summary. So I said, give a text of 250 words about about the danger of contaminated water. And I went further by saying include an image to guide learners and use your own words to summarize a text of 250 words to 50 to 60 words and give the final summary text and summarized text. And definitely it did give me that, the text itself and also the summary at the end. But unfortunately it indicated that and they cannot give images to the text.
Yeah, we'll play with images just now. So,
Okay.
the way you've worded that is you're actually asking it for an answer. What I'd like you to do is take that same idea and turn it into creating that as an assessment. So now you're saying, I want you to help me create the assessment task where children have to summarize it. So now they've given you the text, you've got your piece. Now say, referring to that text, word the assessment and create the rubric to mark it. So even if you do it in little bits and pieces, you can then do it within that space. So if you like the way it's written, it's good. If you want it to be easier, tell it to write it more easily or write it more difficultly for your children. Fix that first. When you're happy with that, now say to it, I want you to, this is the thing that I want children to summarize as an assessment. Now give it the instructions to turn it into an assessment task. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Will do. Definitely does. I will do that.
Okay, great. And you can do it in pieces. You could say first describe the task, and then when it's done, then ask it again to say, if you've got a link, a web link to the 8-point scale. So if you pull it off the language curriculum, and you say, look at this page where the 8-point scale is described, and you put the web link in there and the page it must look at, then say to it, this is how I want it to be marked. It's got to look at this rating scale, look at this page on this link, and then say, and you want descriptors related to the summary. So what are the things that it must tell you must be marked to get an 8 and all the way down to get a 1. So it can make your whole assessment like that for you. That's so cool. Great, Kate. Thank you. You created the rubric. Nice. Now, if you don't like it, you need to tell it. If it's using words that you don't want it to use, if it sounds very American, tell it you want it to use, say, for example, we use UK English. So you need to tell it, you need to use England's English, UK English, so that it's not giving us Americanized language. And you can tell it to rewrite it, but using UK English, so that it uses the kind of spelling that we use. So think about how you can be using it. The AI tools I've got open are listening to me, and they are reacting within the space. I'm having all sorts of tabs opening. For those of you who are language teachers, perhaps you want to go back to Apple Vambi and see if it can do one of the non-English ones, and see if you get a similar reaction to Gemini, or if it still needs to learn a bit more. Oxford English is another one. Sometimes Oxford English is a bit more complex. So Oxford English, UK English, all of those, they're different versions. Nice, nice. Yeah. So your instructions become really important. And you can, for me, if they do something right, tell the AI it's right. If they do something wrong, don't swear at it and get cross. I believe some people do. Just say, no, this is too complicated, or part of it's right, part of it's wrong. And actually have a discussion with the AI to get the answer that you want.
Dr. Karen?
Ma'am.
If I need to acknowledge the source after using Gemini, I just write Gemini.
Yes, I've got a slide just now where I'm going to go through referencing that I've pulled off one of the suggested tools. But yes, it would be Gemini, it would be the date, it would perhaps be the topic of your descriptor. Yeah, so people won't be able to find it like you using it unless it's a public space. So but it is important to acknowledge it. Yes, thank you for that. Can I give you 2 more minutes and then carry on?
Yes, please. I would like to ask a question.
Ma'am.
How do I tell it that I want something different? Do I change the prompt only?
You can actually just say like you've said it. You said, I would like you to change this to this. Look,
okay.
Tell it to look at the description it's given you and say to it, thank you for this comment, but I really want you to change this into this and this and this. So as if you're talking to it, because now it's got
Wonderful.
the prompt. If you want to refer to it, you could copy that piece and paste it underneath it and say, rechange this section or this piece. You can just change your whole prompt. So it depends on how you've worded it, but it's having the chat with the AI.
It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Pleasure. So I'm going to slowly move on. So for me, the importance of writing the prompts is then when you finish, it's like we've been discussing now, it's verifying the response. We need to analyze the response. If you've asked it for URLs, sometimes it'll say to you it can't create URLs. Sometimes it'll give you URLs, but please verify everything. So we can't just take stuff that the AI has generated and say it's great. We need to read it really critically. We need to read it so that it's understood. If it's asked you to find things, we need to double check it. So if it's content, like you've asked it to talk about a specific set workbook and you've given it a link to where the set workbook is, you need to know the set workbook, or you need to understand it to check, are the questions right? Are the answers it's generating accurate? We need to double check it. It's just a tool. So we can't always accept that the answer is right. And that's why having the discussion with the AI becomes so important. And sometimes you get really frustrated and you just say, okay, I'll just do this. And you grab it and you make the corrections without the AI. So you make those decisions. But remember, it still is our responsibility to check that the information is accurate. But now the other thing is you can do the same with pictures. You can write a prompt and it will create a picture for you. And my favorite tool at the moment for creating images is this tool called Leonardo AI. Leonardo AI has a paid for version. I only use the free version. And it gives you 150 free credits a day. So every day you get a new lot of credits. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you now to click on the link and go to Leonardo AI. And I want you to think about creating an image that you might want to use inside of an assessment or a worksheet or So how you can create your different images. And you've got to learn to play with the tools. They've got some fantastic videos which teaches you how to create it. You're going to create your own free account. I'm going to log in because I've been playing with it for a while. So when you go in, you'll see that it's got a range of different resources. There's a canvas editor and a real-time canvas. I go in here to image generation. And then you'll see that here you've got your 150 points. You can upgrade and pay for it. And then there are a range of different things. You can go into elements and choose your kind of style of the picture that you want. You can see which ones I've been looking at. I really like this toons and anime one. So you can go in and select from those. You then can choose the style that you want as well. Do you want Leonardo style or do you just want nothing? You can add a negative kind of prompts like what you don't want it to look at. When you've chosen it, you switch it on and you say how strong do you want it to be, and you can have, I wouldn't have too many of them because otherwise it causes confusion. They've also got a prompt generator. So if you're not sure exactly how to describe your picture, you can put in a prompt and you can say to it, okay, please help me. I don't really like to do that, but it doesn't always seem to give the images I want. But you can see, so here are my images. You need to tell it if you don't want white children, or if you want mixed race, or if you need to say black African children or children of color. So if you want, otherwise the default is white. So you'll see if I scroll through, you can see I've made hundreds. If I scroll through to the beginning, long ago I was just getting white images. It also doesn't understand classrooms well. So to try and get it not to make rows was a thing. So you've got to explain. Here I was creating a story, and you can see the kinds of words I used so that I changed from this little character to these kinds of characters. And then here we were using digital resources. These were little children who were playing. So these were internet safety ones. These were fantasy kind of ones. Here I'm trying to get it to look at robots and people dancing according to 5AI's theory. So I was writing a workshop on 5AI, and one of the academics have described it as, if we get it right, it will be AI and people dancing together. Didn't really get it. I wasn't getting a picture I wanted. Here you can see that I was asking it to skip. AI, sometimes the tools are really, I don't understand. So you can see here, they're not understanding the idea of what a skipping rope is. In one of them, the little person's got 3 arms. Oh, it's the girl who's holding the cell phone on her bed. Where is she now? And then, so here, if you look at the picture, where? Here. So you can see they've got 2 arms and then the one, and then I told it, no, humans only have 2 arms and 2 hands, and then it fixed that up, and I haven't had that issue again. So lots of the AI tools like DALL-E and others don't draw people properly. This tool really draws people, some of the best that I've seen. So have a play, put your prompts in, see what the images you've got, and tell me what you think. You put the same description. So you would have your document again open. What I do is I open Google Slides, so a presentation. So you could use a Microsoft presentation. I put my prompt in there, and then when it's made the pictures, the ones that I like, I actually paste there that I've got them in a slide. So I've got a slide presentation that goes through a range of different pictures. I'll share this tab with you. So this tab is how I've played with AI. You'll see these were Gemini's ones inside of slides, and I really didn't like them. And then I started playing with other tools. So these are some of the other ones. I think this was DALL-E that I was looking at. And then these were the Leonardo ones that I've shown you. So there are lots of different tools. At the moment, I just really, really like DALL-E.
Dr. Karen?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm getting troubled by this. Every time you give us a link, I'll click on it, but it always wants me to sign in. Is that how it's supposed to be?
Yes. So otherwise, it doesn't know it's you. So it's, don't think of it as being troubled. Think of it as it's a good thing, because then all your stuff is under your name. So if you want to then go back to your pictures, you can find your stuff. If you want to go back to your prompts, you can find your stuff.
You know why?
Yes, I'm listening.
Isn't it that there are the versions that you have to pay for and those that you can use without payment? Won't I find myself maybe signing on things that I have to pay for later?
No, so the tools I've showed you, Gemini, no. Leonardo is free. You get that 150 credits a day. If you do want to pay, then you upgrade. So just make sure that you don't. So it's not, they can't just start charging you. So the ones I've shown you, no, that's not going to happen. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Cool. I hope this has got you thinking. I would love to know. Feel like I'm learning how to work with a creature from Harry Potter. Be kind, ask nicely. Yes, I agree. That's exactly it. I'm going to give you a few more minutes. I hope you're going to play with these a lot afterwards. I hope Ricky sends you the document really soon that you can actually play. I would love your feedback in terms of today and how it's gone and if it's been beneficial. So 2 more minutes and then I'm going to move on. We do, Lindsay, we do. We do have to guide them. And we're teaching computers, and we need to think about, we're teaching computers that are going to be around much longer than we are. So like our grandchildren and our great-great-grandchildren. And so for me, I really think it's important that we treat them well, that we treat them, that we teach them to be kind. And I think, like anything, things are mimicked, and these computers mimic us. So what are we putting in so that we'll get a good result out in 100 years' time or in 50 years' time? Yeah. I'm going to move on. So I hope you've really had fun, both exploring the text and how you can use tools like this to really help you in terms of creating resources, but also images for your lessons. So when we're communicating with AI, think of it as being a conductor and how you are actually communicating and engaging with it, and how that then helps you get the response that you want. So for me, it's saying how we're emphasizing personalized learning. You heard the young guy from Marking II spoke about how children would then get the individualized responses. So answers where they've got things right or wrong, it will then respond to them with how you've created the answers. And for me, that's really exciting. We haven't really spoken today much about the chatbots and how you could use those, but you can create chatbots that are specific for you. And if you want to look at that, I can introduce you to people who can help you with that kind of thing. So here are two examples of available ones. One is called Replica and the other one is Cleverbot. And they are AI-powered chatbots. Chatbots are not cheap. They do have a costing to them. But if your language department wants to look at something like this, you could perhaps create one or create one for every different language, because you can create the prompts in the back end. For me, I found this really interesting. So Common Sense is an American company which has been around for a very long time. They assess educational technology tools. They give advice on internet safety. They really are a really good organization. And they were already saying last year that children are using artificial intelligence tools, and in many cases without the knowledge of their parents or their teachers. And I think that's what we've got to get across to the teachers in terms of the children are using the tools. So how are we changing the way that we teach? So what are the kinds of things that we are seeing with little children? They're using it for homework and schoolwork. So they're using generative AI. So these language models that you are using are generative AI to create responses or answers for assignments. It may result in over-reliance. So how we are asking the questions in terms of our assessments. Are we setting tasks that are so easy that children will just submit it and then not actually learn the skill, as I said earlier. And therefore, when we do a paper-based assignment, our children all fail because we thought they knew it, but actually they didn't. What about children creating essays as responses for AIs? This is plagiarism. And so how are we building it into our assessments so that it becomes part of the rubric? What about if we're studying language? So we could be using it they could be using it just to practice reading and writing. And we saw a few tools where they could be using that. And maybe that's seen as a positive rather than a negative. Or children could use the AI for helping to promote AI, use it to for creativity. So blending database insights with new insights in terms of what they're doing, analyzing the work that they've done, being creative with the answers that they've got. So how are we actually getting them to use the tools to analyze information and draw conclusions? So if we go back to Bloom's taxonomy and we saying, how do we think about this now? Our children need good base knowledge. So maybe the AI can help us to build the base knowledge in some shape and form. But we need to really think about how are we doing things differently? How are we teaching differently so that we can get our learners to understand? We need to think about what becomes a homework task and how is that assessed? And because if children are using an AI and I'm using a traditional marking method, children could get a really great mark because they've used AI. I know of 2 grade 11s last year who submitted life orientation assignments, and they were both given in the 90s for their assignments, but they didn't do it. The AI did it. So we really need to think about how we can be making the children aware that we know about AI, and also teachers in terms of what does their assessment look like. So we need to know our learners. We need to know their ability level without the use of AI, so that when they hand an assignment in, we can actually see, oh, suddenly this child's English is amazing and they're flying through it, but when they're doing a classroom task, they can't cope. Then we can have the discussion around why it's so important. So what are the kinds of things we could do as using AI as a learning task? You provide an assessment task criteria, and then you get the children to write a prompt, use the AI tool, read it and reflect on the answer, analyze the information, against valid sources that you've also provided, maybe other Google searches, maybe books, whatever. Reflect and decide what changes need to be made to their prompt, recreate the prompt, verify the new information, ask the AI to add URLs, verify those, and then submit everything, including their prompts, including the responses. So it becomes this whole process of, like I said to you, when you're building one where you're copying and pasting into a document, they would be doing that, and then they would be justifying and verifying their stuff, and all of that would be assessed within your rubric or your criteria. So instead of saying, no, you can't use AI, saying then you're using it, but you've got to tell us how you're using it. You've got to show us how you're using it. So that's one way that you could look at adjusting it. And some of the universities are exploring this in the academic groups that I'm involved with, and they're seeing amazing things with the students. So thinking about how we're building the marking member. So copying and pasting all of these different things, analyzing the response and rewriting the prompt, copy the new reply, drawing conclusions, and then submitting it. So your question, ma'am, around one of the citing, if we are using AI tools, we need to think about why we are referencing. So we don't use sources that are AI without reading those sources yourself. When in doubt, remember, we cite sources for two reasons. One, to give credit to the author or the creator, and two, to help others locate the source. So if we use these two ideas, when you're looking at citing your AI, let's think about that. So think about the author as being the company or the organization that created the model. So for example, Gemini, Google's Gemini, or Azure is Microsoft's Azure. So look at the organization. For example, when citing ChatGPT, the author would be OpenAI and the company that created it would be ChatGPT. There are some guidelines if we look at it. So when we reference it directly, we would include in-text citation and perhaps in your reference list. If you use the AI tools as part of your research, you should describe it for your introduction and methods and the section of prompts. Here, for example, is a shorter passage which you could include, and you might include the appendix or a link within that space. So for example, you might have the author, the date, the name of the tool, and the URL where it was, and you just grab the URL at the top of the chat. And so, for example, here is one from OpenAI. I hope that gives you some idea in terms of how you could reference it or teach children how to reference it. Then in text, it would just be the OpenAI and the year. So when we're thinking about it, some of you gave interesting descriptions as how you saw the discussions, but it's highlighting the human connection when we're using AI, embracing AI, and as language teachers, we can dedicate more time to what truly matters, fostering meaningful connections with our learners, sparking creativity, and nurturing the joy of communication and language among our children. But now I want us to talk about content detectors. So AI content detectors, there are lots of them, and they've been around for a while. So one that I tested was CopyLeaks. CopyLeaks said that it was used by the United Nations and dictionary.com and some universities. You'll see a range of different places. So what a content detector does is it actually looks to see, has AI been used within the tool? They describe themselves as the only enterprise solution that keeps you informed about whether the content was written by a human or generated by AI, including ChatGPT-4. So what I did was that it finds it, and I went to my ChatGPT interactions, and I literally copied a space. So I went into ChatGPT and I grabbed this section of a rubric that I was creating. I then went into my Google Docs, and what I did was I reformatted it. So I just said, no, take away all the formats. And so it now just became a plain Arial 11, and it had removed all the formatting. I then took that and I copied and pasted that into ChatGPT. and it said that it had 60% a human text. There was no human text in this. This was completely generated by AI. And so I gave them my feedback. I said, no, this is not good. So we need to be discerning about just accepting what the AI detectors are saying. I then took a copy straight from ChatGPT, and when I looked at that, it said 19% probability. So yes, it was more accurate, but it still said that there was human intervention. Again, there was no human intervention. So we need to think about how we're actually using it. What I did yesterday is I opened up Quillbot's free AI detector, and I went to my Gemini, and I went to ChatGPT, and I grabbed a comment of ChatGPT and I pasted it into Quillbot, and it said 100% AI generated, which is exactly what it was. I then went into Gemini and took a piece of that, and it said the same. So for me, it's saying the AI tools are learning, but we need to be careful. I then took content from a Google Doc and I pasted it in here. And this content was actually a mixture of me and the AI and all sorts. But the first little piece was actually totally my words. And that's the piece where it said probably 33% is AI generated. Actually, there was no AI generated, and all the other little bits and pieces were AI generated. So I think we really need to be discerning. I don't know if you read newspaper headlines towards the end of last year, during the year, and even this year, about how people are saying that they were falsely accused because they hadn't used AI. And so there was this whole furore around the accuracy. So AI is just a tool, and tech makes mistakes, and we need to be aware of that. And so for me, we really need to think about, we can't just switch on a tool and say everybody's using AI or everybody's not using AI. There was an American professor who failed his whole class and said that they'd used ChatGPT, and there are a whole lot of cases around that in terms of how that's been used. These are some of the universities in America who have switched off Turnitin's AI tool. So for those of you who are studying, you'll know that Turnitin is almost in every university. They had an AI tool, and lots of the universities had switched it off. And the reasons they switched it off was this, underneath are the different articles where it came from, was the frequency of false positives, the disproportionate impact on non-native English speakers. They don't want students to be falsely accused. OpenAI warned that there is no reliable way for educators to work out if students are using ChatGPT. There is mixed performance about AI detected tools leaves academics with no clear answers. And Turnitin lack of transparency methods also made universities query. So we can't just switch on these tools and start putting everything in like for our matrics or something. We really need to be discerning in terms of whether we use these tools, and if we use them, having the discussions. For example, one of the AI tools said that the American Constitution was written by AI. We know the Constitution was written a long, long time ago. So we need to really think about just switching a tool on to say it's checking. Some of them don't, sometimes work, sometimes some work, other times they don't. So we need to think about it. I wrote this blog a few weeks ago around artificial intelligence in my school and my classroom, and there are a whole lot of things around teaching ethics and policy. So that's in the information that you've got to take home. But for me, looking at AI and ethics and attitudes, using AI responsibility, become involved and aware in the discussions about AI's development and usage, be polite when using AI, when we're teaching computers with inputs we make, and take part in engagements is really important. We shouldn't leave it to the policymakers. We should be involved in these discussions and saying, how do we actually impact what's happening within the space? So if we think of schools, schools need AI policies, just like we need a cell phone policy or engagement policy. We need an AI policy to be added to either as a separate policy or as part of policies. So we need to define the scope and the purpose in relation to the learners, who they are, what their age groups are, their abilities in relation to the staff, and in relation to the existing other policies. We need to look at addressing privacy and security around POPI and ensuring that the learner's data is protected. We need to describe ethical guidelines, how AI will be used in the classroom, making sure that there's responsible use, making sure that we include things like being polite. We need to create an environment for continuous learning about technology. So within the school space, is it open for teachers to talk about what they're sharing and what they're learning and what's working and what's not working? So really getting the teachers involved in the discussions within a school so that the policy is not this dead thing, but it's something that's relevant for that space. That we need to get teachers to be promoting the evaluation of AI tools. And some might work well in some schools and others might work well in other schools. And perhaps then provide guidelines on how to use the tools that they really like or the ones that they're going to include in their school space. That we provide a digital space where AI evaluations can be reported and accessed by other staff members who are perhaps scared or perhaps not using the tools, so that it becomes a community kind of thing, this policy. And then ensure the inclusive and accessible AI support with learners with disabilities and provide individual learning. What I don't think I've added in here, but what I think is really important, is the AI policy is not a policy like other things that we can review every 2 or 3 years. For me, because this technology is changing so very quickly, it's almost something that should be put out there. And almost every 6 months, there should be a meeting about it to say, do we need to change it? Do we need to tweak it? What are we seeing around it? And so having people involved in the space becomes really, really important. Oh, I did put it in. So making sure it's updated regularly. This document is developed by an organization called Teach AI. Teach AI was started by code.org. But they also partnered with a range of different organizations. And they've got ideas around foundational policy ideas. They talk about how you involve a range of different people. You can see who it is very American, but it is a really good indicator. And they've also worked with the World Economic Forum. They have webinars regularly. You'll see that they've got resources and they've got this really cool thing called this toolkit, which gives you a really great idea of how to look at your risks and your benefits and what you need to think about. So they've really put a lot of thought in terms of this. Oh, sorry, somebody's cutting the lawn. And look at the AI in terms of they've got a presentation. And then they've got other tips and things that you can look at and use over here as well that could be beneficial. So for me, looking at this tool is really great. I'm just going to close the window, sorry. Sorry about that. Hope that's a bit better. So for me, looking at Teacher AI, that's a really great resource to use within the schools and saying, how can this be beneficial to help us creating policies? Then I've developed a form or a tool which talks about AI readiness. It's a series of questions. So looking at from strategic planning to school leadership involvement, to staff development, to AI readiness, to data-driven decisions. And you then get a report around, you get a report from that. And which then tells you sort of how your school is at and what you need to consider and what you can actually then use within your space. I'm going to pop the link into the chat if you want to explore it.
My apologies, Dr. Karen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just want to refer a little bit back on the
Yes.
commotion that erupted in the universities because of the AI, where the lecturers are failing the students, claiming that it's not their work, it's actually generated by the AI. I just had, I don't know how true is that now lately they can even capture your voice and go use it for you to be a witness of something that has nothing to do with you, but the voice will be Karen's voice towards serious cases. How true is that?
So AI can mimic you. You can make, we haven't touched on that at all, but you can create. So I suppose, did you hear about the strikes, the actors' strikes earlier in Hollywood? I don't know if you heard about those. And the reason that the actors were striking is that people had started making avatars. So an avatar is a drawing that's a 3D model of a person, and they can make the person sound like it, like you're saying. So it would look like them, would sound like them, and they would do it from a photographic point of view. So it can look like the real person. And the actors were saying, well, then these avatars will be used in films instead of us, and they will then be getting they won't have to pay actors, but it's actually whatever, whoever the actor is. So yes, there is that kind of technology, and yes, there is that fear or threat. And that's why the discussions around ethics are just so important. So the EU has a really strict AI policy that they've created around using AI for human good. And that's what we need to promote. One of the things they also talk about as the most common used AI is actually sex bots. And imagine if that's what robots only think that humans are about. Imagine what it'll be like in a few years' time if those become humanoid robots. So for me, it's saying we need to be part of those ethical discussions from a range of different points of view. We can't take the technology away, but how do we turn it into a good space to be helping people, to be improving our medical, helping with agriculture, helping children to read. And so I think the discussions are very important. But what you say is, yes, there is that possibility. And that's why we need to be discerning. That's why we need to be in the forefront of the discussions and not pretend it's not around. I don't know if that answers your question, but it is a concern.
It does. Thank you so much.
I have a theory. My husband's been laughing at me for years. I said, I want a cave. I want a cave where I can run away, where there's no technology, none. And where I can go and live when things get bad from a tech point of view. I have a friend who has an AI company. That's what he does. And he said to me, no, he wants an island. He wants an island for when if something goes bad with the world and AI. And I think it's just something we need to be aware of. There's always good and bad. If we think of weapons and things that are being developed. And so it's being aware of the discussions and taking part in global discussions. Yeah, and being aware. So I think schools definitely need an AI policy, and I think it's no good saying we just ban it. Like lots of schools still say we just ban the cell phones. We've got to start saying, how do we have a cell phone policy that is being used? How are we teaching children to use their cell phones properly? What are the consequences of not using our phone properly? So for example, filming a fight at school or something inappropriate and sharing it. What are the consequences for me in terms of the Film and Publication Board? What is the principal consequences for me that I could land up in jail or with a criminal record because I've shared these things? And the same applies to AI. We need to start saying we've got to have the conversations within the schools and not just pretend they're not there and ignore them. And so for me, it's saying, how do we make sure that we can become AI ready? What are the kinds of things we need to think about our strategic planning and where our schools are going to go? So for me, it's creating assessments and resources to suit your learners and to save us time. So exploring a range of AI resources, finding tools to suit your assessment needs. I've only shown you a few. Somebody the other day said that there are already, just this year, there are more than 50,000 AI educational tools that have been developed, just this year. So in these 4 months, never mind what was developed last year. So it's growing exponentially and really quickly. So we need to find things that will suit us. But we also need to think differently about how we write these assessments, how are we assessing them? What are we getting the children to do in front of us in our classroom so we get to know them? What are we sending home as assignments that they do? Create meaningful AI assessments for learners to use. Think about teamwork. For me, it's like, are we encouraging our teachers to work together to build effective assessments? Are we getting the teachers to talk about the resources they're making so that they collaborate and they engage with each other instead of saying it's mine and I'm not sharing, but really getting people to use these tools to work together? So it's like I've been saying all along, let's be polite and kind and nice when we're using AI. Let's explain our South African and our African context to help remove AI bias. Let's join the ethical debates. Let's air our views, even if they're controversial. Let's ask the difficult questions and not be quiet. Let's be responsible technology users and teach our students to be the same. Children mimic us, just like they mimic the behavior in the staff room or how they see teachers treating each other on the corridor or how teachers are talking to each other, or they mimic us. It filters down through our school. And so we need to be the same in terms of using technology. So I hope today has given you some ideas and some thoughts. I would love for your feedback. So I'm going to share a link. Long ago, Ricky and I always used to do an assessment thing, and she's not here today, so I don't know if there is one. So I'm popping my own feedback form in here, and I'll share the results with Ricky. But I would love your feedback on this workshop. If there are any comments or things you'd like me to go over, but I really appreciate your time. It's been a long session this morning. I hope it hasn't dragged for you and you've learned something. But thanks, everyone. I really appreciated it. I would love to ask a really weird question. Could I ask everybody to switch on their cameras and could I take a screenshot photo of us all here today? I'm super excited to have been with you this morning and to be in this session. So if you're prepared to share and have your camera on, I would love to take a shot. And I just want to say thank you for your engagement and for participating. And I really hope that you've had fun and you've learned some things today. I'm really happy for you to contact me. I'll engage with you, but really, really thank you for your time. And I hope it was beneficial. I really hope it was beneficial. Oh. If you heard that, that's my robot vacuum cleaner that's decided I'm switching it on, which I'm not. So if you hear them moving, that's the robot. Hope she's not going to come and worry me. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely day.
Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Yes. On behalf of Mr. Wright Shane, he's unfortunately busy with another meeting, so he just asked me to oversee this. So on behalf of him and all my colleagues on this platform, we just want to extend a heartfelt thanks to you and tell you that we are very grateful for this new knowledge that has been implanted in us, and that we're definitely going to explore more. And I think you just touched the tip of the iceberg, and we're going to go further and see how we can contextualize it to the South African situation at schools and make the most out of it in whatever we do, and so that it is at the end of the day beneficial for our learners. So with that being said, my dear, we just want to say thank you so much for imparting this valuable knowledge unto us. And I'm sure all my colleagues will concur with me. We are very grateful for it. And have a blessed day further.
Thank you. Thank you for your very kind words. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Bye, Doctor.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
Bye.
ma'am.
Thanks a million.
Kate, was that an
Pleasure,
AI
pleasure.
generated greeting?
Thank you for the thank you.